very warm welcome to everyone and thank you for being part of the premier design debate by Architect and Interiors India, presented to you by Havells. Thank you so much, each one of you exciting, innovative architects of Ahmedabad, to make your presence felt at our very special evening. Ahmedabad has always been very close to my heart. It's an absolute pleasure for us to host our premier design debate in this city, which is full of creativity, innovation, and which I believe is the mecca of design and architecture. It gives me so much pleasure to be amongst all of you, and I'm really looking forward to the evening, which I'm sure is going to be full of exciting discussions, interactions, and the aim of the evening is to come up with solutions to the design issues and thoughts that each of you innovative architects have in your mind. And we are very proud to share that we are one of the pioneers when it comes to content, and our focus constantly has been in providing innovative and new age content. We have several events beside the design debate, which is the iGen Design Awards, like most of you must be aware of, and the Ace of Space Design Awards as well. ITP Media is based out of Dubai, and we are their media arm in India. And Architect and Interiors India is one of the premier flagship products of ITP Media. On that point, I'd like to invite Bibhor to please come ahead and give the welcome address.
You know, a very good evening and a warm welcome to all of you. It's absolutely a joy to stand in front of you to a hall full to its capacity. And, you know, we are delighted. This city has owed me a lot as an individual. Lots of friends in the hall today. And whatever has happened and wherever we've reached, especially in the design fraternity, I think I owe personally as an individual a lot. We kept listening, kept coming back to this city. And today, I just want to tell you, because we got this incredible evening of two very, I see an echo? Yeah. So we put together, because what's happening and what we've been observing as a media company, there are by far too many events happening. So when Sumisha, you know, our editor, she said, let's do something which is remarkable, out of box, and which is a very refreshing content. So that's where we gave the genesis to bring industry stalwarts, and also on the other side, our lovely young next-gen architect that you see on my left. So I thought it's a great mix to listen to somebody who've been holding the baton and running the show for the country, and on the other side, the young and upcoming. So ladies and gentlemen, absolutely delighted. And you know, today when I checked in the room, I want to read this, and this line really talks about this city. Dear guests, we welcome you to the land of architectural splendor, creative freedom, and colorful celebration. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is what Ahmedabad is, and we are so delighted to kick off this multi-city roadshow, which we call as Design Debate, and we felt, which better city but than Ahmedabad? So I think just to put on certain specs, we're the fastest growing media company in India, and we're the largest foreign publishing firm based out of Middle East, and we straddle across the spectrum. So when we say that, we want to believe what is that we're going to bring to the community. And I think with that gave the genesis to Architect Interiors India, to Hospitality Hotelier India, to Real Estate Construction Week, Manufacturing Today, Healthcare Radius, and many more. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you will have a great evening. And we've got a great brand, Havells, all the people from Delhi. Thank you for making it Duro. I think you all have put together and believed in us and reposed confidence in us to co-create something so meaningful, so credible, and so neutral and where the knowledge share happens at the highest level. I won't get to take much of your time because I'm also like one among you looking forward for some incredible discussion. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
And once again, a very warm welcome to everybody. For now, I'd like to invite Partha Kamakar, the business head, Professional Lighting, Havells India, to address all of you.
Very good evening to all of you. This is Partha. I take care of professional lighting business for Havells India. And I think it is after pandemic, it's a great opportunity to have all of you such a esteemed gathering here where we are able to see each other without the mask, and we are able to talk to each other. And we are really looking forward to have a great day spent where I would like to say that Havels would like to learn from such great work done by so many esteemed personalities here. So really looking forward for a great day. I don't want to take a lot of time because I am also here, one of you and one of the younger generation who is already here. I want to be there so that we learn from all of you. I have a very brief deck to be shared with you. Just to talk about Havels, we have been around for some years, and we have been able to grow significantly. Last 4 to 5 years, we have been grown almost double. We are like a 14,000 crore company, and particularly in case of lighting also, we have been able to put a lot of focus. We have been able to spread across the country in multiple locations. So among the geography, I think 42 different offices we have, and we have been able to spread ourselves across the country, and almost 25 different countries across. So we have very strong ambition to keep pace with the market and keep growing with our footprint already there. So it's not that we are here only to provide some of the products as such. We have been very serious in putting our presence with a strong manufacturing base where we have multiple verticals. Today we have 17 different divisions, and we have 12 different factories around. In lighting, professional lighting, we have our base in Neemrana. You can see the picture of the facility out there, about 5 lakh square feet facility we have put in with latest robotics machinery, and also various type of operations so that we are able to create world-class products. I would like to touch upon something which is very relevant today. That's about how we are able to create human-centric solutions, because I think it's very interesting that because of pandemic, we all realized that when we are in closed atmosphere, it is so important to provide how natural it can be. So when it comes to technology, a lot of us, we have been looking at technology only from the engineering point of view. But over the years, the human aspect, how we are able to marry technology in such a manner that it can work well in the human aspects, that's where we would like to touch upon few slides. Yeah, I think I would take few minutes to take you back into how we see. So when it comes to lighting, there are two most important elements in our eyes, rods and cones, which help us see any object, because they are able to take the reflection from various objects, and you are able to see. Now, when it comes to a whole day scenario, so we would be having from morning 6 to evening, late evening, there are sun movement which happens, and our body has got a circadian rhythm. So the body clock, in a simple manner, I can say the body clock also keeps changing, and this also keeps changing our moods, our energy, our alertness, and also the seriousness to do something. So, and that alertness is highly dependent on the small element which is somewhere back of our head, behind the eyes, and that causes the circadian rhythm as per the daytime. So many a times you might be seeing that in the morning you are very energetic. Why? Because the light also plays an important role. Because light actually creates the feeling of being in the morning hours. And light can also have the feeling of being in the evening hours. So circadian lighting basically changes this color temperature from morning to evening in the artificial atmosphere. So you can see that how in the same ambience you can change your circadian rhythm by right choice of color tunability in the area. So in a brief, how it actually impacts, it significantly impacts the productivity, alertness, and also the fatigue as well as the sensitivity so that we can be more involved in that activity. So that's why I think you might be knowing that a lot of people take good decisions or good discussions in the morning hours. So just after the lunch, we are not so much active because probably the circadian rhythm is not so much working that time. So this slide would give you one small thing, how the evolution was happening. If you see long back, way back in 2015 or last so many years, I would say in lighting last 10 years, so much of growth has happened, so much of evolution has happened, which maybe last 100 years that has not happened. Because 2015 or so, we were only talking about how much energy it should consume, how much energy saving it is there. The next had been how we are able to take it to the next level of sustainability. And as we move forward, the future is about how light and health are converging. So it's our pursuit to make sure that we are able to create solutions which are aiding this, which are supporting this. And that's the next future. And if we want to be future ready, I think our solutions have to be like that. And we would like to learn from all of you that what is the taste you are looking for, what's the language you are looking for, so that we complement the same in our solution. This is to talk about more on the color tunability. Suppose you might be seeing many a times in the night you're not able to sleep well. Maybe you are seeing the screen so much that the mobile screen has got a blue light. If you see that too much in the night, you get rid of the sleep because the blue light is basically keeping you awake. So that's the reason blue light effect has come in. So we are working on various solutions so that in an ambience you are able to get all these kind of lights so that it can take care of your moods, your energies, your fatigue, everything. This is the blue light effect. So well-being and productivity is totally linked with lighting. So I just take care, there are various elements which are there in case of a well-being in an interior. So whether it is air, water, nourishment, fitness, comfort, mind. But when it comes to light, what we want to be a little more conscious about in lighting is there are few elements which actually take care of the well-being also. How we are able to get the daylight in our interiors. Now this is a very interesting subject for all of you where we are actually creating interiors, architects are creating, and I think you can better understand how you are making use of the natural light. So similarly, lighting is also now harvesting the natural light and making the changes in the light accordingly. So we are now giving such solutions. Circadian rhythm I just spoke about, where the light tunability changes. Glare is something which is again very, very important because many a times we think that if it is hitting our eyes, maybe it is more light. But over the years, there have been a lot of technological evolution, and we are today able to provide solutions which are giving decent amount of light, but not hitting our eyes. So that's also possible. Coming to color, I already spoke about, and creating complete solution, including all these elements when we offer a right light in the right position. In an atmosphere like this, you might be able to see that there are different types of applications we create. Now the next generation is about how we can make it universal, that we create one solution and tomorrow you change the partitions. The light is smart enough that without the partition, they can still be clubbed together without any hard wiring. So the next generation is about how we create smart lighting solutions in an interior. So we are working towards it. Few of the solutions are already ready with us. Few more we would like to curate, co-create along with all of you. And this is where, I mentioned about glare, how very good glare limitation keeps you much better focused onto your task. And this is about human-centric lighting. We can use the AV to run a small video, which will give you an idea about human-centric lighting.
The stress of competition is forcing company employees to spend more time at the office and many a times, late in the night. This somewhere desyncs people with local time and distorts natural system, which results in long-term health and behavioral issues, resulting in decreased efficiency. There are two ways to increase your output: either put in more hours or work smarter, and Havels knows how to work smart indeed. Always working proactively to make a difference to its customers' lives by introducing new technologies. Havels is now innovating human-centric lighting by taking advantage of LED's real-time color and light level changing capability. With Bluetooth CSR mesh technology, and is offering light solution as per the natural need to track circadian health. It's a scientific fact that light controls many biological responses like our internal body clock and the cycle of variation in the color and intensity of sun throughout the day. From amber and light to cooler and brighter and then warmer. This affects our alertness in a direct way. The photoreceptors in eyes, rods and cones sense the bright and low light levels, signaling the brain to trigger the release of serotonin in day that boosts attention, and melatonin in night that promotes effective sleep. This creates circadian rhythm and supplements our physical and mental health. Havels has created a lighting system that follows the cycle of natural light as experienced by humans and is called circadian lighting, that enables people to perform at optimum levels while contributing towards mind and body wellness. The system works by integrating light fixtures with daylight and are designed to mimic the natural patterns of sun with the help of tunable technology and automatic adjustment of intensity. In harmony with circadian rhythm, light color with blue wavelength in daytime are beneficial as they improve alertness and increases productivity and reduce fatigue and accidents at work at the same time. At night, the lighting system reduces the brightness and color is changed to warm, signaling the body to relax. This new and innovative lighting system by Havels benefits any office space through increased productivity, improved health, improved alertness, reduced hyperactivity and improved mood and behavior to generate more output from the employees. With this new innovative Havels lighting system's tunable white technology, discover a new way to increase efficiency, improve profits and do business the smart way. Havels, making a difference.
So thank you very much for your patient hearing, and thanks a lot to ITP for organizing this design debate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Partha. That was really insightful. Now it's time for the design debate that we all have been waiting for. The topic that we are discussing today is technology versus tradition. And the format of the event is going to be where we are going to have a debate between tradition, design, which is traditional, and design, which is focusing more on technology. I'm not going to take too much time to elaborate on the topic because we have all the doyens here who are going to be doing that. The entire event has been curated by architect Yatin Pandya. It gives me immense pleasure to share that he has selflessly invested so much time in planning the content And I think we are really fortunate to having amongst us and to help us curate this fabulous event. So let's please have a round of applause for him. And of course, each of our panelists, I'd like to individually welcome you and thank you for contributing and helping us curate this event so that we can make it as informative, innovative, and interesting for our audience who are with us today, and those who are watching us live, and those who are going to be engaging in this content over the next few months as well. A little bit about Mr. Pandya before I call him on stage. A bit about architect Yatin Pandya, an author, an academician, a researcher, as well as a practicing architect with his firm Footprints Earth, which is short for Environment, Architecture, Research, Technology, and Housing. Mr. Pandya has been involved with city planning, urban design, mass housing, architecture, interior design, product design, as well as conservation projects. With over 38 national and international awards for architecture design, research, and dissemination to his credit, we couldn't have asked for a better curator for today's event. Let's all put our hands together for architect Yatin Pandya. Can we please have you on stage, sir?
Thank you all for being here on a day where there is an IPL match also to choose from. And of course, even though there is no liquor to be served, to see a full house here, thank you so much for being here. Well, I'm nobody, I was only a 13th person passing by. And like typically the mischievous person is made monitor, that's how I am here. Good news, I'm not here to make very long, big presentation. I can see Pravani Bhai and many people feeling relieved in that sense. But we are going to have a lot of good discussion and debate, which is something this platform has offered in terms of, and debate also between the audience, so you're not away from that. That's why it's a round table we are sitting on. We have people from the industry, we have architects, we have younger, budding kind of aspiring architects and students. So I think it's a kind of a balanced gathering here. So I feel very honored and privileged to be standing here. I won't be here too long between you and the panelists. What I do want to do is to just give you a very quick idea of the flow and maybe give a little introduction in terms of the topic and the subtopics, which we can probably take up for discussion, although it's an open-ended discussion because topic can take many shades of points of view, and architecture is all about points of view, and that's what we want to hear from the younger generation who probably on the 6th day of birth had a present of iPhone versus people who actually ask the grandchildren how to do this. So I think it would be a very good discussion at intellectual level to understand how does it touches our lives and our profession. A small request, if we can put this technology away for a little while, just as an experiment, can we live without it or not? I think it'll be good to explore this even for this topic. So can we put it on silent or can we keep it aside? It's expensive, I can't say you can throw it out. So at least keep it on silent, okay? All right, just to set the pitch, of course, interpretation is open-ended. I put together by a force of habit a small presentation. Can we have presentation? The slides are better looking than me. All right, I was telling you about the flow. So for both the panel, it's a common introductory presentation just to raise certain points so you can think on those aspects. So first, after this presentation, would be the young architects giving their own version of what they feel about all these aspects and how they have been incorporating that in their own works, etc. Then we might have a small break. And after that, we would have less younger architects talking about similar aspects through their work. The younger architects would speak with mind and you would fill up the color of imagination of their work. The less younger architects would rely on some of the project and small presentations to show their work. All right, so we are basically talking about tradition versus technology. I am not imposing this, although it was supposed to be a debate, but we haven't got the brick bat tomatoes or eggs, so we thought we'll take it as a discussion. So, but you are welcome to take any position that you feel with your heart about it. So is it really the binary? Is it really tradition versus technology, or I leave it open for you to debate tradition and technology, tradition is technology, technology is tradition, whatever that you want to convert that middle one into. I like this forum, one, because we've come after a little time face to face, but also I think post-pandemic, there are few issues, even though we've been talking about it for long, has given us a reason to ponder and rethink on some of the dimensions that we took for granted or perhaps got carried away about. For example, pandemic, I mean, one of the things that I'm trying to bring about, it taught us many things, plurality, frugality, etc., but we had all the technologies. But I think it's the human dimension that prevailed, the nature that prevailed. We were in the room, we didn't step out, but thanks to window, thanks to trees, thanks to changing light of the sun and the heavens, we could survive inside without feeling bored. That's the difference between jail and a home, you know. So even though we had virtual, it helped us to know that other person was safe, but I think it didn't substitute hugging, kissing, and meeting somebody. So even we violated curfews and went out to physically meet someone, to socialize. So we knew the bottom line where human dimension versus the technological dimensions come together versus fall apart. So I think in that light, I think this discussion, we can take a little further than the cliche of technology being this and tradition being this, but I think in our own way-to-way life, and as well as in our own profession, where does that? We saw that when undue systems were out of the place, and if I may generically brand it technology, the human system still prevailed, same number of people on the earth, but nature could correct itself, okay? So that's where I think we could pause, use this calamity into a kind of a challenge to redefine our path. This is a statement for somebody who is the man of technology, man of science, man of physics, who said that I fear the day that technology will surpass our human interaction. The world will have a generation of idiots, okay? So, and the other one that he said, it has become appallingly obvious that our technology has exceeded our humanity, okay? What way in built from around, and this is where I say we can also correct our course. Last decade or so, we were after smart city, and no dictionary would give you any meaning of smart. It would never be dumb. But if these images become the vision for what we call smart, we wonder if it's a vision or a slogan, and that's where we could recorrect. Now, this is simply to say there's nothing to beat about whether it being a glass, whether it's being steel, but having chosen a process of technique of putting together, it has ended into a universal, banal architectural expression. That's the point. So it's not just technology to be beating about, but we need to know how that comes across if certain processes are taken up. And this images, I mean, there's no point even arguing where does it come from, but just for an academic interest, put any name of any city in the world and it works, you know. And why blame the world? This is here in India, for shortage of time, I won't bet about, even as Ahmedabad, I'm willing to bet any amount on this. And once again, we can see as diverse a context, as diverse a traditional setting, as diverse a climate, but outcome is the same because there is universalization, standardization of way of putting it together. Both of these are Kerala. We need to wonder and question which Kerala is appropriate, which Jaipur are we longing for, and which Kolkata should we be promoting. So it's just that kind of an outcome is the context. In the yesteryear's architecture, not because yesterday is gold we are talking about, but there was a little reference to the wisdom that it offered in terms of environmental management, cultural appropriateness, and a timeless aesthetic. So can our expression, whether we use technology or go by the age-old wisdom, afford all these parameters, which becomes the holistic architecture. So whether it was insulating wall, whether it was, so insulation has to go with ventilation, which is the wisdom we had. Now with fixed glazing, it's not the glazing, but fixity of it, there is no ventilation, and therefore it's just generating heat within. So we need to isolate that. We used to leave outdoors, everything doesn't have to be indoors. The fenestration, very beautiful design for light, view, ventilation. And that's where, just to set the tone, because when we say history and tradition, both are different. Both are from past, but when we say tradition, it is not a fossilized yesterday. History is a dead tradition, while tradition is a living history. Something that was obsolete for the changed time, it's already been irrelevant and died its own death. Okay? But what has been off yesterday, but have been equally relevant in present time, has prevailed. And the fact that it has prevailed is a proof of those values being shared even in a present times. And that's why it's a living history. So when we are talking about tradition, let's not call it a grandmother's nostalgia, but it is still that grandmother is alive and is able to cure us when we have a cold with some local thing, okay? So that's one difference in our debate we hope we keep in mind, that it's not forgotten, antique, something that we are not talking about Mohenjo-daro and the date, but we are talking about the wisdom that it even had light, electricity, or not, it didn't have heavens, but it had, in fact, there was a joke that in Indian civilization, we had communication so advanced. Everybody said that we dug up this and we found wires, so there was telephone, we found canals and we could move faster, etc. And Indian says we had the mobiles. Why? Because we dug up and found nothing and yet communication was happening. So probably that's what we pick up from here. It's effectivity of low technology. So again, when we say technology, there are many grades to that. So it was not that technology suddenly come in. And yet what eventually it does, like that was Ahmedabad, it was telling, become a global citizen with higher education, but it did not invest as good Ahmedabadi on IPL several crores. It had a camel cart which could effectively reach the audience. And tradition is not static. That's the point I was making. As you can see, we used to do Chopra Pujan, now we do computer pujan and still maintain our balance sheet with the blessings of God. So tradition in its root has not changed. Are these contradictions? That's one point. Is technology anti-tradition? When we say technology, are we denying the tradition or is suppressing in its own kind of mental status that, are these contradictions or these are equally contemporary in its form? So is technology anti-tradition versus is tradition anti-technology? 300 years ago, one of the most sophisticated astrophysics, so to say, and we see the actual performance of that. Traditional technologies also, this one, yeah. In the desert, very, very, very impossible ways to find water, and still a kind of technology, I would say appropriate. So it's again not high, low, or technology as a kind of extra feather on your crown, but the one that could do the purpose. We think farmers, the most primitive, in fact, the expression for that, कि ये तो देहाती है, farmer है. But farmers have adopted before we ever blink of an eye for several decades the highest technology, that is genetic engineering. And you can see these cows whose milk we are drinking, the Jersey cow, mix of several breeds. So they have in fact practiced, and without us knowing, we are actually taking, like, whether it's a seed, whether it's a milk, whether it's cropping. So, I was going through what are the synonyms of, having talked about tradition, what are the synonyms for technology, and we have to be aware that is automation a good idea as a technological derivative? Is machinery, is computer, is it robotics, or is it applied science? So if we break it down, then technology is not a singular world. Can tradition shake hands with technology? So are they pole apart, or they are the kind of complementary dimensions? Can technology have a human touch? Like we saw, technology may not replace the human emotions or human endeavors. Technology needs to be rooted to its place and realities. This is one aspect of tradition versus technology, that there was spontaneous adjustment and freedom of creative decisions. So when we say technology as a taking control away from you, like we said, the fixed window versus you could move around. So when we say craft, when we say tradition versus what we say, this would replicate exactly. But is it what we buy the sari for from the South Indian loom? Or two saris are never the same, because that little oddity, little spontaneous adjustments keep happening, like here. So when human control is taken away, that's where technology needs to be questioned, that how far is it in the other realm and how far it still remains in. Both are glass, so it's not glass. Both are a good technology application. But one can bend the form as it wishes. The other one would be, you have to supplement to that. Technology, fast construction, advancements, let's think and argue. We had one of the best examples of mass production through craft tradition. Instead of one company supplying everything, you had one carpenter who had 20 types of columns, 5 types of window, etc., etc. You could permute and combine, and it becomes your house, which would be unique to you and yet similar overall. We have seen spontaneity and diversity naturally coming out of nature. That is the nature of nature, as against with the best technology, Netflixes, many channels, I don't know how many hundreds of channels, and we get bored sitting in front of that. People have bought tickets to watch match just to be part of that mahol, while sitting with close-up and Ravi Shastri's comment, you can better understand that cricket at home in your own comfort. But that's a different mood, and this is a different thing. Technology inspired tradition. So it's still column beam, etc., etc. I'm not trying to be too kind of theoretical on this. But what it did was to, in fact, make technology apparent as an expression. Like we see traditional jali, but with technology, like you can see in a close-up that like a aperture of a camera shutter, you can close and open, and it does the same purpose. So this is also an use of technology, but wisdom is from tradition. And that's why finally, we need to think about 4 stages. One of ideation. Is technology a better tool or free hand and a mind? Like we say, mind mapping and random doodles for that, versus a kind of development of design. Okay, Jwalanbai uses many parametric forms and whatnot, and he can talk about. Then production, how far, what is the line, and Parul Ben, and he can argue it out. And then, of course, post-production, the maintenance and subsequent kind of control and operations. So if we break it down, so not take technology as a word and tradition as a word, but I think the sub-nuances, then I think this debate would go to another level, and we hope to. There are technologies, we used to chain a dog, now we chain ourselves closest to the charging point. Technology that united the family, and the technology that exactly divides the family, even on the same dining table. And one thing, to my young friends, I'm using my not even gray, bald hair, have changed really in human dimension over 100 years. This is exactly the picture 100 years apart. Very smart technologies. How far have we changed as a human, really speaking? Was tradition deprived of technology since we did not have smartphones and whatnot? There were versions of CCTVs and surfing, etc. Well, some things have changed. We used to have a child come in to study. Now to throw him out to play. What we exposed and what we concealed. Well, it's a little long, maybe for time I won't go into it, but glamour, beauty, this is a nice conversation between a grandson and grandfather. Grandson asked, "How old are you?" And grandpa say, "There was no moon on the, nobody has walked on the moon when I was there. I and your grandma got married first and then lived together. There's no Pizza Hut, Coca-Cola, whatever." And all that what you hear, this, my young friends would say, कि यार क्या primitive जमाना था. पर ये भी एक जमाना था where people were not necessarily deprived. It's only 69 years. The point is, many things apparently would have changed. We have to think as human beings, are we really different? Okay? So let's inspire from yesterday and yet aspire for tomorrow. Let's have diyas where it's needed and heaven lights where it makes sense. We can empower through design and technology as a tool to the final goal being to improve the quality of life. So let's dialogue, diagnose, and deliver the cure. Thank you for your attention. Be here for a short while. I have also, actually, it's because the younger friends are not going to be presenting their own work, so I thought rather than introducing with their laurels, which I might do in a line, I might want to run through 3 slides at least to give a visual idea of the kind of work that they do. Thank you for that. No, so at least when they speak about their ideas and whatnot, there is a little reference because the elderly ones here are going to be presenting maybe their own work. So I have taken liberty to introduce them through their work here. We have one of the panelists is Ms. Pankti Shah. She's the co-founder of Amog Designs. And I mean, all of them in their ways of thinking have said it's the nature, it is the 5 elements of design, nature that have inspired them. She has been working for 6 years, and she says people, material, and architecture is something that they strive towards, the coordination and coherence of that. So these are some of the samples of the kind of work their practice does. You can see an attempt at combining, etc. So we'll hear from her. I'm not putting any label on that. That's why I kept it a little open-ended. Okay, we have architect Prashant Trivedi, founder and principal architect of Squelette Design. And they have done a whole range of projects, and by their claim philosophy that they have minimal design aesthetics, but maximum experiential qualities. So we have Prashant Trivedi representing their firm. These are the samples of some of the works that they've been doing. Then we have Satviki Trivedi, and she has been the founder of that studio, and she derives inspiration from nature and the kind of work that you can see here. Nature also is the nature of material and nature of things, not just nature as green. That's a real plant. We have Viram Shah, and he runs Design Ki Dukaan, and that has a range of design expressions or products from jewelry to furniture to n number of other things. You have to go to that dukaan to experience and pick up things. So these are the samples of the kind of work that they do. They also use the craftsmen, etc., to put things up. We have Jwalan Bhai from N Design Studio, N Black, sorry. And you can see we have a good debate on our hand, a good contestant to come around. These are the samples of his work. We're not trying to brand, but I'm glad to see this diverse flavors. And we have also a stalwart from the industry, Mr. Partho Ratnakar. Karmakar, you have already seen his presentation in terms of what his company offers. And this is again a very good example that how technologically it goes beyond to explore and and yet inspiration drawn are from. So we also have him joining this panel. So we welcome all the 6 very young and kind of your ideas, fresh ideas, and we take inspiration from what the younger generation is about. You know, I always say this is from a selfish interest that we are going to retire in the environment you are going to create. So we have given you something to curse upon. Hope you give something to bless about. So please welcome you all. Thank you. Before I put and become a headmaster to put question across and take a quiz, I think I give you a freedom to take any opening statements from each of you. Maybe to begin with, what in your own understanding and definition you think the tradition is about. So maybe if you want to pick up and add a comment of what your version, what your definition, so that with that platform, we can take it up in terms of further questions about it. So, who wants to start?
I think if I just try to sum up tradition in my own sense, I think tradition is a knowledge which is over time built up, and that kind of becomes at some point so mature that it becomes base for newer dimensions of those traditions. So what we are talking today, or what we are doing today, it would at some point become part of a traditional knowledge in a much longer run. So I would say tradition is just a kind of a knowledge base, and then we can decide how back or how far we want to go to describe that tradition.
So repository of wisdom is what you're saying, what tradition is about. Can we have a lady's opinion?
I've never used a mic in my life. So this is me, tradition, and this is technology. And we are trying to sort of have a smooth relationship. Okay, so I'm going to speak for myself that I personally don't think that tradition and technology are opposites, or there's no versus between them. I feel that tradition is the core of everything, and to support tradition, there is technology. So technology is more of a support system to any of the tradition. And in the earlier presentation that we saw by Yatin sir, there were some fun examples. So I'm just gonna, to break the ice between you guys and me, I'm just gonna share a very small incident. So if I may.
Please.
Yeah. So we had a very recent bachelorette trip with my best friends, and we were traveling to Rajasthan, and we had gone to 3 different locations, and from one city to another we were traveling, and then suddenly the policemen stopped us on the middle of the highway, and we wondered. So I was the one who was driving, and then we stopped by, and I asked him what was the issue. So he said that there was this speed limit issue and you crossed that. So I said there were no boards, no signages, we did not come across any of that. So he asked me for my license, driving license, which I passed it, I handed over to him. And he read my name, said Satviki Trivedi. Now he said, "Oh, आप तो ब्राह्मण हैं, आप तो हमारे land में पधारिए, whatever." And I said, so technology was the speedometer, and then the tradition was the surname. So I think, so I mean, tradition, we can't really run away from that.
Okay.
So technology is always supporting.
So, am I understanding you are saying that your heart is a tradition and your head is a technology?
Yes.
Okay, please.
I think your presentation reminded me of this book, Whitewash by Gautam Bhatia. 2002 it had come. So it was basically a lot of yellow pages full of irony about what the state of the country is. And I think even now, 50% of that book we might be able to relate to. I think from what we saw in the slides, the banality of design that you mentioned, I think beyond tradition or technology, I think the loss of identity for me is a major concern right now. That you can't deny that, like there is progress, every time, every 10 years. I think there was this exhibition called Vistara by Charles Correa where he speaks about how things have changed, and you can't escape that. I think how I see it is that using whatever means that I can come across. And obviously, there's a story to us because we are deeply embedded in what we come from, say, being born a Jain, you're taught certain things, the importance of, say, climbing the mountain, climbing Palitana, whatever, it's a process, and then probably expanding into understanding even more important notions in life, where music, literature, art becomes an essential part of you, where maybe religion goes backward. And then sort of this whole circle that you come across, whether you listen to classical music, you probably listen to rock music, this whole circle that becomes your life, and then expressing that in your work, may it be, say, a piece of jewelry or architecture, I think is essential to me. And I can't really define or put myself into places, but I think the process, what you spoke about, creating your process, I think everyone has a story as to who you are, where you come from, what you grow through, and to sort of express that in your work is, I think, for me, the most essential part of being a designer or an architect.
All right.
So what Viram just said, that the kind of upbringing one has, particularly talking about myself, that I come from the background where in my family everybody was like into designing temple complexes and building temple complexes. Basically, we are Sompuras. So the kind of the conversations about tradition and religion and the building methods and art and symmetry, those kind of conversations were not new to me in my childhood, kind of privileged childhood I had. So, somehow I wanted to break free from that kind of, the systems my other family members were following. So I went on and took up my formal degree in architecture. So the constant juggling between not following the systems, not following the traditional, typology of doing and designing things. I came across so many dilemmas. I kept on asking people, I kept on resolving things in my head. Things were getting more and more clear, and now I feel that, technology, of course, it helps. Tradition is to be learned from. Tradition by the means not just old buildings or the culture. Tradition is the way they used to work before, their workflow, how they communicated on site, how they do their designing, their details, those kind of things actually helps in designing in a better way in today's context, and it makes relevance in today's context also, and I hope in future also.
Right.
So that is my thought.
Was a point for the next question. We'll come back to that. Let's hear Pankaj.
Hello, everyone. Actually, what I believe is, when we were growing up, we are 90s kids, and I've always seen all these traditions and all these things going on. But then when I started doing architecture, there was a dream. I want to be an architect, and I want to do this and that. I went for digital architecture masters. I was like, I want to do digital architecture. What is it and how it works and everything. So after doing that, I was like very curious when I go back to my country and when I can use all this and make some tremendous buildings like what I've learned and everything. But then when I came over here, there's small things when you are working, you feel that you have to consider. And as you know, it's not someone who has taught us that how we are. It's our tradition, or maybe it's inbuilt, or maybe this is India and we are not somewhere outside that, you can create anything here. Now you have to consider few things which are very important. And when then you start doing it, you fall back to tradition, but then you want to go to the technology part also. But then you fall back to tradition and you want to go back to the technology. So I feel it is more or amalgamation of both. And obviously the future is technology, but then it is always rooted back to the tradition. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Maybe Mr. Patho, I'll just twist the question. As I was beginning to introduce that on one hand, the kind of thing that you have been part of, you have to constantly reinvent the technology, of course, for superiority of its performance. So technology to upgrade the standard. But on the other hand, many of the designs that we see take an inspiration from something which is of yester times, which have classical references and things like that. So in some ways, this is a fusion of the two, the traditional inspiration and the superior technologies, and it's a battle that keeps going on. At what point do you think the other one may win, and at what point do you think the constant of some inspiration would remain?
I think anything if a solution is traditional, many a times we wrongly interpret it as a very historic or very primitive fossil type of a design. But it's not true. I mean, I believe, as well as our designers believe, that if we are talking about a traditional design, we are taking inspiration of the value systems which are there with the tradition. And technology is something which is like very relevant and contemporary. I mean, if I am today using a dabba phone against a smartphone, then I am not relevant. Mm-hmm. So similarly, when it comes to our manufacturing, we always are in the pursuit of using something much more contemporary. So I think it comes very, very apt that we have to be upgraded in technology. So it's also sometimes overused, misused, and sometimes misrepresented also. That if somebody is using technology, it has to be your type. Mm-hmm. It does not mean it is a very your type. It has to be relevant. It has to be something which is more efficient. It is using materials which are more sustainable. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very, very relevant to merge and converge this traditional values, and the solution should be more advanced in terms of technology. That's how we will be able to create something which is sustainable as well. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. To the younger practices here, you can pick up as and when you think you want to respond to that, because all of you might have your own experiences about, what I wonder and ask you is, being from an age group and just having come out and being part of this smart culture, do your clients come with an expectation that ab jamana unka design badal doge? Like people come to me to design dinosaurs habitat, thinking maybe I would know that better. So do clients come and demand that kind of a accent from you, or do you pitch for that, look, abhi ka zamane mein ye chal raha hai and all that? Is that become a kind of a dialogue platform, technology as a platform for either way reconciling and consolidating that job? What are your experiences?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. And right now what is happening in the society is, what I have noticed from my experience is that clients are, because of the use of social media and because of the use of everything that is so much available to anyone and everyone, not just the architects or I think any layman is able to approach to anything. So now it has, even the market, everything has become very open. So in that scenario, I think everyone psychologically also, they are getting quite influenced, So when we have a dialogue with any of the clients that, okay, you know, we are, or that, at least that is how I approach them, that I am trying to take you through a very intimate experience of everything. And my philosophy, or studio's philosophy, has always been that we love to sort of incorporate and make the sensorial elements, I mean senses, a part of the design process as well as the project or spaces. So I love it when the people, the end user, who is really, really interacting to the space that they are ultimately going to live in. So my idea is always to present them a material palette which has some element that has got some odor, some touch, something, you know, recently we are working on a farmhouse, and noticing the increasing heat in the city or globally also. I was very fascinated by the use of rammed earth that is happening in places like Egypt and has been happening. So I was just wondering if in such a deserted climate, if this technique is working.
But
And
it coming from you,
yeah.
do clients get disappointed that ये लड़की अर्थ की बात कर रही है? मैं
so-
तो सोशल मीडिया देख के आया था, मैंने वो इमेज दिखाई.
Yeah, true. So it's a very difficult dialogue to have with the clients, and they are suddenly, jumping onto the conclusion.
What do they come up with when you say they are influenced by the social media? What kind of three requests they come up with, or prefixed ideas?
Yeah, so what they do is ideally they just start dropping their reference images from Pinterest or wherever, but they just start the conversation with that. Now, I'm not even coming there with a mindset of, with the visualization of this happening to me, and then it becomes a very difficult dialogue to. So then they straight away go on to whether you're going to show us the 3D and how are we going to visualize, and that's.
Sure.
So I think,
Okay.
yeah.
Viram bhai, you're selling designs. So
Sitting and you're discussing, I think one lecture that probably everyone starting out should hear is the psychology of clients, and we would like to hear it from the seniors. Just case studies of what the client briefs were and then how it was translated to. Because that is something that most of us have struggled with at the start, when we go into a different topic but similar context, when you address tradition, I think it's a double-edged sword, because say I'll confess that when you do an interior project, it's a very superficial project, I don't think that tradition works in a way when you create a jharokha or a superficial treatment of the wall. That is not tradition, that we can't address. That is, I think, even more superficial than...
That's stylization.
Yeah. So I think, and plus, it's a world of fast consumption. I think Noam Chomsky calls it the age of quick gratification. So with us, practice is very difficult to actually get into research of things. So in my circle, I have a lot of different people. Say there's certain, Praful Dave's son, Hardik Dave is a friend, and Praful has such a large collection of forgotten folk and poem, which has been sung in a certain way. He's trying to put it out in a different way. There are textile artists. Example, like Sujani's, this art in Bharuch, where they fill wool and sort of cross-stitch. Now, so there's one old Muslim uncle who is yet doing it, his son doesn't want to do it. Now that loom has to be operated by two people together. Now no matter how much work you give him, he just doesn't want to do it. No matter how much money you give him, he just doesn't want to do it. And if he dies, that art is lost. So to get into the roots where you create programs or, probably get textile students and fund those looms and probably get the government into it as to how do we preserve it, is something that after a point, I have gone through a process where I have not had the time to actually get into research. But, as architects, it's like a pyramid, we're always at the top. And under us, there are contractors.
Are we? Okay. Sure.
Sorry.
Are we at the top? That's
No,
good
but
to hear.
to dictate things, like there are so many people that we employ, which we can't
No, because
dispute.
no, we were talking about the client now come with the prefixed image. They want to impose things,
Yes.
and you probably have a dialogue on your hand, to do, not to do kind. So where is
Yes.
that bottom line? Or
Yeah.
you think that those are the things to
No,
get
so I think with, like we just said that with every client, it's like a new student, So to educate every client about what your practice is, what you do, why you do it, what you wouldn't do. And eventually it's a 70% thing, 30% is a compromise. But like age કે આલાપ વગર તાન નહીં વાગે તો પહેલા આલાપ કરીએ પછી આગળ તાન વાગશે તો ગાઈ લઈશું. But it is
પણ
essential.
આલાપ પછી ક્યાંનો હોય એમ
હા એટલે આરોરો તો આવશે જ.
સિતારનો હોય કે પછી કંઈક બીજો હોય.
Yeah, but I think and same thing, it comes back to the process, the vocabulary. I think if you, and say you need one good project to sort of define yourself. And that works, then,
becomes a benchmark
then you
for people
get clients who understand you further. But I think if you're lost at the start, then it's difficult. Then exactly what she said, that the overbearing weight of escaping your phones or images is impossible.
Sure.
So, when there was a process, or when there would be a library to actually research and see why Corbusier painted in a way or created things in a way.
Earlier we were showing the reference images. Now
So there's no biography. There's no biography, but a single image biography of what their life should be or what they want from us.
Jwalan bhai, you might have a client coming ke thoda alag milega, hatke milega. Is that the notion?
So I have had a very different experience. Somehow, most of the clients we have had, even people who have not eventually become our client, they have come with a very open mind. कि यहाँ पे कुछ अलग, like अलग भी नहीं, but this guy will create something for us, which is not fixed in a box. Not that he doesn't want a box. But yes, as Viram said that, some of your project starts to define you. Having said that, I'm seen as almost anti-tradition in a manner because of the technology we use. But our technology is not merely the machines we use, because that is just some bit of it which we do. Most of the technology we use is the process, the process of designing, which is very heavily oriented, software driven, or whatever we call it. Now, when I came to India, just to break a little bit, when I came to India, I had worked for Zaha for 4 years, and you are like, you think you can just change the world or you can change India or whatever. And when I came here, I realized that whatever I'm doing in the computer is just not possible if I don't use what is there here, and what is here is
it not
the
possible
craft.
or is it not right?
No, I think it was, in my case, it was not possible, because there was one project which we had done. It was an art installation which needed 6-axis milling machine, which was not available in Ahmedabad about 9 years back. So then I had to kind of, I wouldn't say go backwards, but start to look at people who were amazing with their hands, who were amazing with the technology of the material. And that actually changed my complete perspective of where I belong. Because one is that we say that we should save craft and we should save we should save or we should respect tradition. But in this case, they came to my rescue, and they have been rescuing me since then. So I have consulted World Bank for many clusters, craft clusters where we use digital technology, but then it's made by, really vulnerable communities who have been, losing their craft. We have been doing rammed earth, we have worked with bamboo, but at the same time we have done like laser cuttings and CNCs and metal and everything. So when a client comes to us, I think he's very confused.
But
And,
if client
and he's
was
unsure.
open-ended and give you free hand, would parametrics slip in somehow?
I try somewhere.
Okay.
I try somewhere, but we don't force ourselves. In fact, sometimes I tell my client that it's not meant for this space. So when luckily when a client comes to us, now we have a variety of work to confuse them enough that you know the images you are. And I have one favorite thing, that the images are all fake. You know, so that helps.
Panktiben, you said you had been from US when you returned, and then you saw there was need for something else to do. And does client come with that overbearing thing that it's a foreign return?
With architecture, we all should study psychology also. Because when you are in front of client, and I feel I am a beginner, I feel I'm a beginner. So whenever there is a client, like out of 10 clients, 8 they know. मैं लीला गया था ना, उसका जो बाथरूम था ना, वैसा ही मार्बल मेरे को चाहिए, वही चाहिए, बजट नहीं है उनका, मगर वैसा चाहिए. Then I went to W in, we went W था, तो वहाँ पे जो रेलिंग थी ना, वैसी करना मेरे को. So they all come with this demand, they show us like all the images from, you know, Google and everything. But then slowly first I understand what is their psychology, what is their lifestyle. I cannot just put okay, this is what I do, अभी यही करना पड़ेगा आपको, मैं वरना नहीं करूँगी. So basically it is, there's a lot of competition also. I cannot say कि मैं सबको ना बोल दूँगी और मैं घर पे बैठूँगी. No, I also want to design something. I also want to do that one big project which will have that impact and where I will get chance to prove myself and what I like to do, right? So this is the process which right now I am facing everywhere. It's not like कि ऐसा होता ही नहीं, मेरे को तो सब client अच्छे मिलते हैं. No, there is impossible thing, and for me it is impossible at least. So I understand the psychology. I have to understand कि उनका mindset कैसा है, family कैसा है, उनका business कैसा है, everything, and then at a subtle level, and then we वो wavelength match होने लगती है, and then I start okay कि नहीं इसके बदले ये करेंगे ना तो थोड़ा अच्छा लगेगा, तो then they agree. Ultimately, I know what I want to do, but first of all, I cannot say no. This is not what we do, and this is not what our
But you
ethos or
said
principles
8 on 10 come with the demand. Are these 8 more for futuristic thoughts, or they are
So what I'll say is,
indifferent to that?
yeah, it's a difficult choice. I am not a futuristic person, but I feel future is what we have to head to. So I cannot say, and I always feel if there is something new, I want to explore that. I want to do it, because when I see it's the design, the students, or maybe the colleagues what they are working, I feel wow, like that's so amazing, and I also feel how they are doing it, and I also want to try that, because I know I have a limitation. First there was something like architect knows everyone. Now the vendors know more than us. So some vendor will come and say, "Madam, ये आ गया है बाजार में, आप क्या कर रहे हो?" मतलब okay, ऐसा है, चलो सीख लो, ये भी सीख लो, आप भी सिखा लो, ऐसा है.
Prashanta, you carry a huge burden that you're coming from Sompura family, and people would come कि हमें तो पत्थर वाला मंदिर जैसा चाहिए, and then you have your own aspirations or your own way of trying to explore architecture. So what is your way to reconcile that, or you just become rebellious and say, go to my daddy if you want to do this, if you come to me, come with a smartphone? Is that what you do?
Sir, so frankly speaking, we also face this image dumping dilemma in the beginning of our practice, and still we are facing that issue. So to counter that, we have a very funny way of doing things now. So what we generally do is we let them dump all the images what they want. We make 2 proposals. We work hard. We make 2 proposals, one which we want. We make good renders of that, and what he wants. We make some really bad renders of that, and then we pitch it up to them.
Okay. Yes. So which one you do a bad render? Which one you are more comfortable with?
Both.
Yeah? Grandfather, or? Sorry? You feel more comfortable with the language of the father and grandfather?
No. Basically, what we try to do. Basically, what we try to do is, sir, we try to explore each and every project. So what we do is we try to study the site. That typical like we used to do submissions in our college. We still make presentations like that only. So that's how we try to study, and that's even clients. Just like Viram said, that we need to educate them first, because these kind of basic presentations, they get to know it in a very simple manner, so it is quite acceptable to them then.
Right. Karmakarji, when you're talking about consumer response and the kind of, delivery to that, just not asking for trade secret, but what generally is the kind of trend that in the product line that you have are doing better? Is it more, like you said, Yankee ones, or is it the other classical type, or what generally falls, and what is the kind of, again, not as a trade secret, but what do you think are the kind of notions people are going towards as a buyer of the product, and you having developed a range, which kind of things are, like, I know I've been very happy with your sort of semicircular T bulbs, and I've replaced all other with that one. So, but that's a general consumer. But in terms of other designed versions, what do you think are the kind of demands and the expectations?
Yeah, I would like to address it like, particularly when it comes to professional projects, not the home projects, typically for 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom flat projects. I represent the professional lighting, where we come across every day this thing that there is a design probably made by somebody in some other country. They have picked up products which are relevant there. So why should we, just copy the same product or import the same product? We spend so much of money in duties. Why not the same thing can be developed in India? So that's where we have been able to really put our engineers in place who are masters in customization. And today, just to give a small example, all the architectural lighting products, we are able to customize, and we are able to offer not the menu card only. So it is the time that we need to provide a complete solution. So there would be a lot of things which we have to customize. So, and technology is really helping us, because technology is available. And how we use the technology to curate products and develop a body around it. So we can actually create good solutions. Giving a small example, we just a month back, we were facing this challenge that there was a outdoor facade where they had a contour lighting. They want to use a very small, simple product which is highlighting the contour. But that contour have been changing in terms of this x-axis change as well as y-axis. So if you see, there are very, very few companies who are able to provide a 3D bending solution. So, but technology is available. We are today able to offer that. So such kind of solutions are available. We have to be really contemporary, and sometimes we get into compromising, but we make sure that the technicals of it, the solution part of it is not compromised. But yes, there is a good balance between being practical and being compromising on a particular project. And we are in India now able to provide some really very, very advanced solutions. And that's where, we feel that we are just the kids to learn further from the requests or the demand coming, and we keep on customizing accordingly.
No, I think your presentation had very interesting points on the lines that as designer often we get carried away by the form and the style and the kind of look of it. But what you mentioned was also that technology has come to help improve the quality of life. Like you get the choices of color temperature, like you get narrow beam or a wide beam. So technology also advances in a different way to support the designer, and it's the designer which need to understand the nuances of that to apply it in a way so that it becomes fruitful eventually to the end user and improves the quality of life. So that's the kind of back end of that which helps do that. So technology also to give freedom and flexibility to apply it. Earlier it was one bulb yahan laga do, one bulb yahan laga do. Now from there you can beam only on a shoe, and So I think those
Yeah,
are the
exactly. You know, there's a project where we were doing the check-in counter lighting. So they had a specific rectangle. So we have optics now. We can create exactly specific type of rectangle at a particular height, and we can develop a product. So we are offering that. So such kind of customizations is very much possible with
we
technology.
save a lot of light. If you bounce it off this, the whole would be illuminated. Don't need so many. Okay. All right, let's come to the application part of the technology in your practice. Forget the client, forget the sort of economics or whatever, but you as professional, when you deliver, let's say if I bracket it into 4 that I mentioned, that ideating and the role of technology in your individual ways, you still feel comfortable relying on other tools and techniques, or you think the present technique or tools are more. So ideation, then the design production or development, then actual production on site, which you might influence. I know none of you are developer to do it yourself, and then post-construction operation. So maybe Jwalat bhai want to start. Which aspect of what and what extent of technology do you think you use and if you feel comfortable and write about it?
So when we and I will talk here about the projects where we actually use a lot of technology. When we start conceptualizing, there is a lot of obviously there is a lot of sketches and drawing work, but because I'm aware, or as a studio we are aware that this will be taken into a digital realm very, very soon. The ideations are also never something what you want to see. So it's never space. It is always as a thought process of, let's say, components or relations and things like that. So when here I say when technology and digital and fabrication and all of that, the thought process changes, and that has become quite intuitive to how I think. So that's where the technology helps. Now, it's not that we cannot do this as a drawing work, or we can't do it as a you know,
So you
in a
start
conventional
with a doodle
way.
or you start with a laptop?
No, so I start with a very rough doodle, which is what I said. It could be just relations and things like that, and then it kind of moves on to the laptop. But the reason to use technology is to try iterations. It's not as if it's not possible by hand, but what technology gives us the benefit is that we can actually, in a very, very short period of time, try 15 iterations which otherwise would have taken months and, you know, years. So that is the first step. Then when we come to the next level of
Design development.
let's say design development, that's where we don't do it in isolation. We bring in the, you know, the partners. I would say the partners in this case, if it's a carpenter, if it's a fabricator, you know, I have not tried that much with concrete, but mostly with metal and wood and other materials.
But that's at a studio level, or you're saying
No,
at the site level?
it's at a studio level.
Oh.
So we have been working with a few fabricators and carpenters who have over time learned the software we use, at least to view it.
I was going to say other way around. That
yes.
carpenter आके बोलेगा साहब मशीन फेंक दो, हम तो अभी ऐसे ही करते हैं. You know?
No, so you know, they have, like, I have grown with them and they have grown with me. So when we write a certain process and a script, you know, we ask them that what do you think should be this detail, or I am thinking this detail. Would you be able to make it by hand, or how much should be machine? And that all gets inputted into our scripts and into our softwares. And then the prototyping happens, and then the next stage, you know, happens. Now, just a year back, you know, a lot of you know Raw Collaborative, this, you know, this amazing exhibition which happens here. So for the first time, I was not making drawings, because till now I was making a lot of drawings which were very complex. So I let it to my team to start making drawings, and they were so bad in terms of understanding how to interpret a complex form that I had my CNC guy, my carpenter and my fabricator come to the office, spend 4 hours and give them a talk on how to make a drawing which can be visually, you know, or a product which is very complex, but then how to draw it. That is how it kind of builds up, and then slowly when it goes into the actual making of a project or a product, or finally manifesting it. I think it's a mix of what over this 2 or 3 or 4 months we have kind of developed as a digital model, as some prototypes, as physical models, and then it kind of starts to explain the client how and why we are doing, because there have been few projects which we have done where on a site there is no drawing, it's just a diagram, and then everything kind of starts to come as puzzles, and then kind of we put it together.
Present it to the client, you rely on more of the
Actually, I have avoid, like I've refrained myself from explaining a client what our processes are, because sometimes what happens, they get too scared that ये तो ऐसी बातें कर रहा है, मैंने तो कभी ऐसा सुना नहीं है. So we actually never tell our clients how complex a project is, or how easy the project is, or what the process will be. Then at some point, client starts to become interested, they become very friendly, and then we kind of explain them at some point, but not really. We never tell them that this is a process which is different from a conventional way of doing things. I think it's better that it just remains with us to a certain point to make their nerves slightly calm.
Satvik, you might have a difficulty simulating the texture or the bonding of the breakthrough digital medium. So what do you rely on?
Yeah, I mean, earlier it was very, very difficult for me because I did not have a team. I was single-handedly doing everything like a one-woman army sort of. But so at that time, at such a budding stage, all I had was the hand renders and the doodles and the models and the palette, the actual practical palette. And then, of course, I progressed and realized that how much there is a need of bringing computer-aided design and also augmented, virtual reality. And I am definitely, I would say that I have become dependent on it after experiencing a few, So yeah, that's there. I think to bring clarity on paper, because otherwise it also gets very digressed, and clients sort of get a scare that whether this person is only good at talks or they are, that's sure. Something that has come across.
So good to see that both kind of versions are still prevalent in this age.
Yeah.
Parthuji, one final question to you. Do you have, sorry, if you want to say something, please go ahead. Yeah, on this, if you want to share anything else.
So basically, when we start some project, my only thing is start sketching, start doodling. Even in the office, like everyone wants to start on computer. I'm like, how linear and grid, you start working on AutoCAD, and how can you just, make something which is free flowing, or something which is, where you can interact with the design. I don't know, when I start drawing, I can interact with the design.
Okay.
So that's what I feel. And that's what I always tell my, employees also and colleagues also. Like, I have to sketch something, I have to do something, and then I'll see how, you have to work on the zoning and space planning, and then that is the later part you do. But sometimes when you're creating a form, you create a form and then you see how it works. So that is a part of ideation, what we do.
But do you use the physical model ever in the office?
So, no, now I'll definitely tell you that, like, clients doesn't have patience. Like, I don't know, maybe my clients doesn't have patience. So they want something which is, working really fast. Like, Pankaj, show us renders, how the materials are coming and what will be there and how it will work and this and all. So the only first question is, कि, 3D कब दिखाओगे? 3D कब दिखाओगे? I'm like, this is a process which happens when, everything goes in the process. First we do the sketches, mood board palette and everything, and then we work on the material palette, and then we work on the 3Ds and everything.
Okay.
But then before that
So
you're
for
not getting it.
ideation, you use the doodles, and for communication, you
Yes,
use
then
the
you have to do a computational
renders
design,
and
obviously
whatnot.
renders or something like that. And maybe if you are creating a facade or maybe something, then at least you have to show them a basic 3D or something with the sketch, ki how it will feel and how it will work and everything.
Okay. Parthoji, since there is a lot of parameters about selecting, design of right model, right kind of what is human-centric sort of lighting, etc., is there a supportive software or some simulation tool that architects can use and try it out first, that, okay, this is right, and you have...
Yeah, this is, I think, thanks to the evolution of how we design lighting. I think a lot of our architects here might be already using. We have come a long way in terms of creating simulations. So today, whether it is an indoor atmosphere or outdoor atmosphere, we are able to pick up the product's exact photometries and see the effect and get the heat map of the buildings which are not yet done. So on the simulations, we can create those kind of effect. And
Does
that's
that
where
software also say, don't do it when you put something wrong? No?
No, I think their human element comes in picture for those emotions. And I encourage that many a times we have been seeing that lighting has been considered towards the end of the project. But I mean, most of the interior or the building has a very important element of lighting, which I see that, I mean, thanks to this community, that there is growing consciousness on that. And we are considering lighting right in the beginning. So what we can do is create different kind of impressions. And those impressions can be put on the table. And then we can, right in the beginning, at the inception, we place various the engineering components of it, whether the driver or
good part that actually a final technology can be used in ideation and development. Sorry, I think we're running out of time. She's just been politely saying, now I see she has a stick in the hand. One final question, just you all have just come out, I mean, you have our own time, but one or two responses just to say what in the curriculum, knowing that technology is not advanced or should be advanced, you would want to suggest can be incorporated, being a professional from a younger age, what you thought you have or not got from the curriculum or education. Any thoughts? One or two responses.
I think I would not say anything about adding of technology, but I think one thing we should add very, very strongly is making with materials, and not, I don't mean models here. I don't mean imitation models where we are seeing just the form of a building, whatever that is, but it should be making. Exploration is something which we are missing drastically in our education. And I think that's very important.
Anything on technology front, you think?
I feel consciousness is more important. You should be conscious of what you are designing, where you are designing, and how it will react to like present and future. Because we are not somewhere like fashion designer who has created a cloth for one day. We are somewhere in that something when we create, it is going to stay longer, and how it will react to the nature, to the people using it. And I feel it is more important to be conscious about what you are designing.
Virambai, last statement. Do you feel anything missed out in the curriculum?
No, just I think what I said before also, that I think as professionals, which is something that I'm also trying to do, but say bigger firms, we probably students never get the time for research and never get the funding for it. So maybe as bigger firms, we could put down open calls for say someone who wants to explore a certain craft. So maybe they can give a full outline of what they expect to achieve out of it, sponsor that, and maybe at least have those sort of documentations done so we could bring it out in a better light, because I think eventually the balance of an intellect and a craftsman is what we are all looking at.
Okay. So thank you all. I think what we were happy and probably feeling a little safe to hear is that nobody was talking about virtual reality architecture, you walking upside down and see how the world can be changed. So thank you so much. It was still a hybrid kind of a mode that we all are going through. So thank you for sharing your opinion and seeing from the younger architects, the architects of tomorrow, to, of course, they're working today, but they're going to shape tomorrow, and to see what kind of thought processes they have, what kind of tools they use, and what is their notion about this constant debate of tradition and technology. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
That definitely was very insightful and extremely interesting. To quicken things up, can I please invite Kshitij Sarup, Head Marketing Communications, Lighting and Solar, Havells India Limited, on stage to felicitate our guest. We have Mr. Bharat Purnik, DBM Gujarat from Duro, to please join him on stage, and Indrajit Saoji, Director, ITP Media.
Second part of the same debate, but coming from a different times perspective. So we have architects, and they have rooted their conceptions or foundations on certain premises very clearly articulated. And one of the names that we see, and senior and lady architect here from Abhikram, Nimish Bhai and Parul Ben Jhaveri. We've all known the kind of works they've been doing, and they have been kind of a sort of a, mashal holders of the kind of approach to architecture, learning from traditional wisdom, documenting it, interpreting it, and applying it. So whether it's the architectural space making, whether it's actually execution of the building, or even certain kind of detailing, etc. And they have stuck to the core of the practices, the techniques, the know-how, and the way of doing things. So we would have one of the panel presentation and subsequent discussion, architect Ms. Parul Ben Jhaveri. Okay. Should I introduce also? I don't come every time in between. Introduce the other panels as well. I mean, all these panelists don't need introduction, nor am I saying more than what they're known for. We have Hiren Bhai Patel, no introduction needed. He has been doing a range of projects, and on one hand, he's been happy to explore. I remember him sketching on a, kind of a laptop, Mac, and you can't make out, is it a tool or is it, of course, the person doing it? So I think he has adapted very conveniently to both these dimensions in his work, and I think relying more on nature and the context, and yet creating and not be afraid of newer materials, newer products, and newer aspects of him. So Hiren Bhai Patel, of course, won several awards and is a known name in the architectural parlance. We have Vipul Bhai Patel, apart from his associations with IIA, he also in his own right have been doing range of work and is also going to talk to us. We're missing one, right? Rahul Bhai Dalvi, well, soon he would come, and he's been also doing a range of work, and his motto is that on one hand there is pragmatism and functionality, on the other there is a richness of experience and its aesthetics. So amalgamation of those kinds of ethos coming in his work. And of course we have in the panel the younger, so it's kind of in between the two, dynamic couple of Bhadri and Snehal Suthar. And they come from Bharuch, I understand. Or now you're here, okay. But I was hoping that he would come in a traditional dress, which he flaunts quite often. But they've been doing, again, a range of work, and right from salvaging the second-hand material to placing it in a contemporary aesthetics. And so again, there is an exploratory work where a lot of these boundaries are broken. So we have these 6 interesting panelists here, and we would be happy to hear from them in this format. We have a privilege of going through their about 4 to 5 minutes presentation. So there might be an indication at 4th minute, and at 6th minute, they were telling me that there might be shocks or radiation coming from the microphone. So that's the kind of time frame we might be happy to go through all presentation, and after the presentation, we might have again a round of debate. What I would also like, meanwhile, that as you also architect in your own right, you also have your opinion, not to just only make it a dais and the audience kind of format. If you wish to ask certain questions or have certain opinions, if you can, you have a pad and a pencil. Sorry, it's not a laptop, but I hope you can still write with a pencil your questions and points. We can raise it to the panel also. So meanwhile, while they present, if you have anything of that sort, I might be sitting here. You can recognize me from there. So please do so. Thank you very much. So I'll invite first architect Parulben Javeri to present.
And I thank ITP Media and all of its administrative people for inviting us, and Havels for supporting this cause. And to me, tradition, it's not tradition versus technology, but it's tradition and technology. You can see that already happening. They are quite happy to adapt themselves to the traditions, to technology. And they know where to use, how much to use. And we need to learn from them. Amber Palace and Udaipur Palace, that both of them have survived for many centuries, and you can see this one started 450 years ago. It has gone through 23 Maharanas. It has seen them inspiring their architects to build. It was a small place, about almost 100 feet by 60 feet when it started off. Now it's a sprawling complex of 1.5 kilometers. But what you see here is congruency, continuity with change. None of the architects or the Maharanas wanted that you have to change drastically. But you can see that every period has left its mark. The style is slightly different, but there is change with continuity. This is something that we did in 86, 87. Haveli that was found and restored to a point. We restored it for 2 stages and then showed the owners how to go ahead. This became a very famous Jagat Nivas hotel by the lake in Pichola in Udaipur. So them and artisans then have started developing it further and further. And this is what we want to do, because we don't have to be there, architects. Once the vocabulary is established, you're not needed. The artisans know what to do. And they also educate the client, and client educates them. Same thing we started in 86, 87. Bagor Ki Haveli was changed to West Zone Cultural Center, adapted to, and it's going on. First 2 phases were done by us, and then the administrative people as well as the artisans carry it on further. 200-year, probably this city was abandoned, Amer. They left Amer 300 years ago. And we think it is said that this is at least 200-year-old. I mean, it was abandoned 200 years before that, dilapidated. And we have revived it using 70% of the same material, including lime, which becomes cement. I mean, which replaces sand to an extent. The same, is there a pointer that I can use in this? No pointer, no? Pointer, sir? Huh? So you can see that the same stone slabs were used, put back into the roof, and the same stone has been reused again. And we were learning from the craftspeople, and they had all the freedom to do what they wanted to, and this is what they created. So probably we are not needed. This is again Pannamina Kund in Amer. It was defunct, so we have revived its source and renovated, restored, and revived. Here are the people who are working there. Here, I find today that I'm restoring, renovating some parts in my house. I have to be there every whole day, practically. Whereas here, you just tell them what you want, and you can be away for 1 month, and you'll get it exactly the way you wanted it. And there is no compromise in quality. Again, it's a journey of 700-year-old palace. It was especially for the soldiers. It started off like that, and now it's become Six Senses Barwada, that resort that we just opened in October this year. The traditional architecture has a way that you can adapt and expand, which unfortunately our boxes can't do. Again, new buildings using local traditional materials, technology, artisans, design principles, climate responsive with minimum mechanical inputs. All of them are comfortable with minimum inputs. This was a great learning place for us, Amnivas. It started off as a small outhouse on the farm, and then they liked it so much, so pond was added, we came through it, they added 2 bedrooms and kitchen, pantry became kitchen, etc. And they liked this so much, so they said, let's move from Jaipur city to this place. And the entrance changed from northeast to west, and all that was possible with the help of the craftspeople. And that house is again an ever-changing house. Even today, there are things added, and unfortunately, this is 1.5 minute long, so I don't want to play this, but how happy she is being there in this simple house, and how comfortable she feels whenever she travels all around the world and comes back here. Again, a mud house which withstood the devastating earthquake and 20-inch rainfall in 12 hours. No issues, no cracks, nothing has happened there. Again, Kutchi craftspeople. This is an renovation and extension of 120-year-old house in Valsad, that is South Gujarat, renovated using the local Valsadi teak. And whatever was the stone that some settlements had happened, so we used the same stone as Kapchi and added new stone and made whatever designs were possible. Basically, we don't want to waste any material. Most of the material is always recycled in our buildings. Even if it is a new project, whatever, we try and recycle whatever they remove. Again, these are greenfield projects, blend of traditional architecture, principles of design and material, as well as modern materials. This is our own house. You see these exhaust shafts taking out the hot air, and where then the cold air is infused through just air coolers. And of course, this is all wood and lime. Unfortunately, this was just designed immediately after earthquake, so we had to go in for column construction, change our design from load-bearing walls and from jack arch. This again is a cavity wall lime house that we have done. Here, they start an AC only for 6 hours. They really like it to be very cool. And 6 to 8 hours, and they said for the rest of the day, we don't need to switch on the AC. It remains that cool. Sabhakhand, Gujarat Vidyapit, 700 people, breathing fresh air. The earth tunnels, first it's pre-cooled air that comes through the tunnels, and you know, it's traditional principles. You have verandas on all sides, the hot air rises. It's so simple to keep them cool, and you don't need air conditioners. Again, Audi resort in Kumbhalgarh, near Kumbhalgarh, fort itself. We traveled here every week because the terrain was very steep, so we did not want to do much of cut and fill, and worked with the craftspeople, and you can see whatever stone was removed was reused. Again, this is near Jodhpur, Rajasthan. Everywhere the craftsmen are local, traditional. We don't have our own teams so that we can create new teams and encourage and give them work, create work for them. Local people, local material. Here we have combined 3 to 4 stones together from very soft to very hard. And if you ask people here to polish it properly, it's not possible. But these people sitting there in the desert, they said, "Koi baat nahi, madam, kuch bhi bhej do, hum kar lenge." And they give you, again, all the soft furnishing is designed, manufactured locally, designed from our office, and the graphics also, all the painters, everything is local. A hotel that has been conferred with more than 120 international hospitality awards, best luxury hotel in the world twice, and it has remained in the top 10 for 10 years, and now it's in Hall of Fame, where we've been able, again, it's a mixture of lime and concrete. 21 crafts which were dying have been revived, and they continue now to being used in Rajasthan and all over India, and a lot of these craftspeople and artisans have traveled abroad as well. Because when the guests come, they like it and they want to get it done in their own house or place. Here, the craftsmen working there. Again, then modern traditional materials. This is a school here that you have, again passive cooled in Nadiyad, their playground, a celebration mall in Udaipur, Gulmarg Greens Golf and Country Club, metal, this is concrete, but still these are comfortable buildings, and Torrent Research Center. Still the largest passive cool building in Asia. The central part is where you get the cool air, which is cooled with micronizers, and you have the shafts in the end, the chimneys that take out the hot air. And what are the consequences of this? 200 metric tons of air conditioning load saved. Summer temperatures remain at 28 to 32 degrees centigrade max. 6 to 9 air changes every hour, which means you're continuously breathing fresh air. Even in chemical laboratory, when you step in, you don't get the smells of the chemicals. Only 3 to 4 degrees centigrade change in temperature in 24 hours. Outside variations are 14 degrees to 17 degrees. 65 to 70% humidity in summer. Building designed for 175 occupants, in 97, accommodated more than 600 users in 2005 before they got their extension done. 250 kilowatt power is made available for others to use, and it has paid rich dividends in 15 years. In 13 years, the cost of the building itself was recovered. In first year itself, all the extra stuff that they had to do to make it passive cooled was recovered in 11 months. Anyway, so all my request to everyone is take responsibly, design responsibly, make responsibly, sell responsibly, use responsibly, reuse, recycle, reduce consumption, replenish the environment and earth. So many teachers, but very few students. Theirs is it's difficult to find these craftsmen. We have lost a lot of them in last few years. Thank you very much.
When I came to know that there was a presentation, as usual, Santiti, a message and I'm not the man of email. So yatin been a long email, so I didn't receive it also. I didn't read it. And I thought, when we have subject which is traditional and technology. I was looking at the list and I say, oh, Parul Ben che, Encyclopedia of Tradition, and Jwalan che, Technology, Parametric Architecture. I say, who is the hero who is going to say anything? So I was very easy going. I thought, atla bada loko che, to I will be one who will be more like audience and listener rather than speaking anything. So as usual, then suddenly morning there was a group of our group about how to present and things like that. And as usual, again, I missed those messages. And afternoon, suddenly I realized, oh my God, there are 40 messages. And Vipul says, I will present this. And Snehal and Badri say, I will present this. And Parul Ben, as usual, my email is already sent. And I say, my God, now what to do? So I message nakhi do कि maro slot Parul Ben ne api dejo. I'm not going to present anything. Then I enter inside, and then again so much of sincerity, full house, and I say, Hiren, this is not the way. So I say, I'm just going to speak anything. I don't have anything. I have really not prepared anything, and I almost felt like a foolish guy. Somebody is working so sincerely, and I didn't even bother to see, and I really felt ashamed of myself. So I was reading. Partha's no lecture chali raho to. I was reading. I said, I don't have any slides to talk about. And I was reading there, technology and traditional. And I'm the person who is in between. So with my phone, I said, let me use the technology. By his presentation was done, my presentation was also done on my mobile. So I thought, let me present something. And I used the technology. So a couple of some support from the office, WhatsApp messages came back. Proportions are not right, but bear with it. It has to be in more right proportions. It has to be 100% circle, it's stretched, so the technology is not, in terms of presentation, is wrong, but my presentation is still right with the 100% circles. Anyway, so what is technology and tradition? We already discussed on it. I'm the person I see as the in-between. Have lots of value and respect to the... Can we go to the next one? So I finish in 6 minutes. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So tradition is the one which is the old wisdom. Even Jalan, the young people say that wisdom came from. And technology is the one which you take it forward, you look forward. So for me, tradition is a kind of past. To learn, it's a past. I was afraid, I don't need. I was afraid that Hiren will jaldi band kar jo. So the tradition is the history, past, which you learn from. There are lots of wisdom from that, lots of learning from that. And technology is the one you move forward. Eventually what happened that technology will eventually, slowly, over the time, it will again become like a tradition. That's the way that it's a continuity. So that's where we see. So I see I is the present. Tradition is more like history and past, and technology is like future. So for example, I thought let me show you some example of how I perceive these things. So this is the one house we did, and it was a society. Architect Dilip Soni no akhi design kari society. There are a couple of 50 bungalow. And Emma mare design karwano tu. So I have my own way of thinking. But a genius guy, very senior person, believe he's seen his architecture language so beautifully. He designed beautiful traditional houses with a sloping roof, with the Mangalore tiles and jarukas. And I'm the person who wants to do something else. તો મારે ક્લાયન્ટ્સનું જેમ તમે કહો છો ક્લાયન્ટ તો દરરોજ રડ આવે છે બહેન મને તો અઠવાડિયામાં 3 વખત આંખમાં આંસુ આવે છે એટલે ઇટ ઇઝ નોટ ન્યૂ ફોર યુ ગાઈઝ ઇટ્સ ધ લાસ્ટ 30 years I have been crying and I still don't have idea, so I will come to you to learn something with Prasad કે રેન્ડર અડધા ઊંધા મોકલવાના ને અડધા સારા મોકલવાના એવું આવડતું નહોતું આજે it's a new learning for me, so thanks for this good tips. I will start using from tomorrow itself. Yeah. પણ મારો તો બધા જ રેન્ડર બેકાર હોય છે એટલે I have to learn the new technique, how to do the lumen good renders and things like that. Yeah, anyway. So this way we designed the house, which we thought, okay, let's make a modern design with the going further. So I see the roof is towards the technology, because I inspired from architect Dilip Soni's sloping roof. I genuinely wanted to give a respect to him. So even client wanted a very flat roof modern house where society has approved. I say nothing doing. I will do the house with a sloping roof. But I try to inspire from the more way of other architects' work and try to find a little technology, little modification to do that without losing the, giving my respect to the senior architect who is next door living also. So this is the one example that how you learn from the old things and try to develop your own language for same, and that's become like one new challenge. Otherwise, I would have made modern flat roof, but here it was a compulsion of some tradition which was architect Dilip Soni as a tradition. I continue to give him respect with my own language. So that's the one. Can you go next one? So same house, and I think I repeated earlier also that I had no idea how to make very sharp edge of wood and things like that, and we wanted to make a veneer. So what I did, I had sent my carpenter to the Milan fair, because I always say કે દરેકનો પોતાનો એક સુરેશ હોય. મારો પોતાનો સુરેશ છે, જેને મારે કોઈ ડ્રોઈંગ્સ કરવાની જરૂર જ નથી. હું એની સાથે વાત કરું, એને it's a direct connection. We don't require. He understands. He will stop the work and he says કે આ સાહેબને નહીં જ ગમે, because he has been working with me. So it's a good idea to educate your team also. So मैं सुरेशને મોકલી દીધો BNB ઇટાલિયામાં. BNB Italia is an Italian company who has done entire headquarters of Apple headquarters has been done by BNB Italia. So मैं BNB Italia વાળાને કહું કે તમારું માલ મટીરિયલ તો હું લઈશ, પણ એક શરત છે. They says what? મેં કહું મારું કાર્પેન્ટર મોકલીશ 15-20 દિવસ તમારી ઓફિસ. મેં કહું તું ત્યાં જઈને બધું સ્પાઈ કરી આવ, તું જોતો ખરો દુનિયા કેવી કરે છે. તો મેં સુરેશને મોકલી આપ્યો. સુરેશ stay for 3 weeks over there. He comes back. Now he talks like BNB Italia. કે સાહેબ આ કબાટો તો બની જ જશે અને આ તો નહીં જ થાય. કેમ? તો કે તો પોલીફોર્મ બી ઓસ્ટ્રેલિયાથી લાવે છે, એ લોકોને પણ નથી આવડતું, કારણ કે એની ટેકનોલોજી અલગ છે. આફ્ટર 3 months he would again say કે સર હવે પેલા વોર્ડરોબના શટર્સ બની જશે રીમા દેશિયો જેવા જ. આઈ સે વાવ, રીમા દેશિયો ઇઝ લાઈક લીજ ટોપ લાઈન. હી ઇઝ એના જે હિન્જીસ બનાવે છે એ જર્મનીમાં કંપની છે, એની સાથે મેં ટાઈઅપ કર્યું છે. તો હવે I can also make the same. So see, it's the technology, because I supported a traditional craftsman, pushed him to break his barrier. He went there and now he goes. He says, sir, our hinges both સરસ મળી ગઈ છે, sir. Now I can also create as good like Rema Deshios things. મને કહું ડીલર બની જાઉં. I said, ડીલર ના બન તો તું કારીગર જ રહેજે. આખું અમદાવાદનું બધું વેચવા કે ગુજરાતનું વેચવા જઈશ. So again you will, because you are an artist like that, stay with your own technology. So here, purposefully I designed these things where we have the legend. He has already left. He is the legend, so he would left. The Viram. So we have Viram here. And in front of Viram, we have the legend. For Italian legend, he is Antonio Cittario. So I purposefully designed, and I always tell that, look, we have a guy who is a legend. Antonio Cittario is like a legend. We all know he's a legend. And about furniture, he's like tradition. He has been doing so many furniture, and the entire world follow him. And I have the young guy who is working with tradition with his own new techniques and technology. That's the Viram. And I always respect both of them. So I say we have the giant hero, his work, but I will not underestimate my young guy who is the Viram, who is a coming up good artists, coming up good designers, and I will respect both of them. Next one. Yeah, so again, see, I would... we say it's a time of Pinterest. And a time of Pinterest, copy paste become very easy. So what happens? You start talking and you start bluffing about everything. You have to learn and you have to go back. What tradition teaches you? To go back and learn the roots of the things. I mean, this house we designed, and the client came and he says, I want dream house to design and something in front of River Tapi, and we just designed. And we thought of, because it was a farmhouse, I thought of sloping roof with the singles, exposed concrete like Tada Wando's work, and there's no budget and everything. We said, wow, this is a like dream project, and we will have glossy images of this and arch daily and whatnot. I mean, you have concrete work with the singles, and that was the architect I thought of. One sentence changed the whole thing. Client came and he said, sir, હું છે ને બહુ 10 ચોપડી ભણેલો માણસ છું. I made my fortune in Surat, and I have so much of things. why can't we make our house, why don't you make our house like our gamna jeva ghar hota eva? They are so beautiful, aren't they? I mean, he really questioned કે આપણા ગામડાના ઘરો, ગુજરાતના ગામડાના ઘરો હતા, કેટલા સુંદર છે. એવું સરસ ઘર મને બનાવી આપો ને સર, I am from Saurashtra and I want a house like that. And that day it changed. I say, okay, I need to change. I mean, I could have done this house with exposed concrete, but I said, no, we'll go with the plaster wall, which color like a mud kind of things. I didn't have courage like પારુલબેન કે હું લાઈમમાંથી કર્યું હોત તો મડમાંથી જ કરી શક્યો હોત, થોડી બીક પણ લાગે ક્લાયન્ટ ભાગી ના જાય. So that we thought, let's have cement plaster walls. But we got the special country tiles done in Morbi the way we have in our villages, right? And I started talking about story of village house. It has lots of influence of Bali, and you can see it because we travel, we pick up the things and we use it. That's how you learn, and slowly you improve yourself. So that's the way you get mature, and that's why we say the mature architecture, once you have experience, you become more and more better. So this has gone to world architecture level, and it was selected for first 10, and then finally somebody else won. But it was still went a village. Our architecture house, which has been inspired from Gujarat village, has gone to world level. So that's the pride for us. So I was talking to some jury, again in triple ID, and Krishna Ben Sastri, he shuttered me down like anything. He said, Hiren, tu baat kare che ke traditional village house, where are the otlas and where are the steps? And I realized, so there's so much of learning that, see, say you talk about something, but you completely miss. You completely miss your otas and your this thing. Just go back to the village and learn. So that's where I realized that Pinterest, so you have to go back, you have to go and sketch, you have to understand. Client na photograph thi kaam nahi chale. I would rather say, keep on working hard and hard. I mean, we are blessed. We have been educated from SEPT, and we have learned how to work. And I am not against of technology, but you can't give up. I mean, otherwise it will become like cut paste. So next one. So this has been like traditionally, but you can improve the way you want to do it. Next one. Yeah, so how you transfer your traditional to the technology. So this is a temple, it's a Ram Darbar, but it has been inspired from the South Indian temple. So it's a different perspective. So you evolve from your tradition. Next one, please. Yeah, so again, now that village house has brought to the another level. We have designed a house in Ahmedabad, which is more compact version of the village house. So that's how you keep on evolving your things. Next one. And then you get confused, what are you looking for it? And I'm still confused. I'm looking for new language for my work, and I'm just exploring where the building becomes transparent with what with nature. I'm completely failure in terms of heat and everything. It's beautiful, looks beautiful in pictures, but in harsh summers, it's still hot pocket inside. We are still working that how to do without losing the glass, and that's what we have been working. Thank you so much.
Good evening, and nice to see everyone here. It's always a pleasure to be in Ahmedabad. My time will start once I start, sir. It's always a pleasure. First of all, thanks to Bibor and ITP team for inviting the only outsider from Ahmedabad. And it's nice to know that I have some students as speakers as well, so it's a pleasure to see you here. I'll just, believe me, my entire thought process is antithesis to what we have seen. My talk is not about my work to begin with, and it comes as a surprise to me that we were supposed to showcase our work, but I think I'll stick to the topic, and after seeing Parul's work and Hiren Bhai's talk, it's better that I don't show my work at all. So the topic was about tradition and versus technology. As Parul Ben said, and technology, I absolutely agree with you, ma'am. My thought about traditional setup of yesteryears, if we understand it, it's the life of necessities, lesser ambitions, limited aspirations, strong social structure, joint family status, and lesser exposure, lesser option, lesser needs. At the end of the day, if you sum this up, it's a content life, because you don't have many options, so your aspirations are less, your ambitions are not that great, My dad had 3 scooters in his life. He never owned a car because he said, my work is done. And I think that is what we miss today in our life. So what ultimately technology-driven life today is, it's about increased choices, life of luxuries, exaggerated ambitions, excessive exposure, life of aplenty, hunger to have it all, confusion, migration for better earnings, relating to nuclear family status, frugal social strength, physical connect turns virtual. We have Mother's Day, Father's Day, Daughter's Day. That's all that you call up your mom and say, hey, it's Mother's Day, so I'm giving you a call. It was never there. It's all about getting depressed. Yesteryears, when somebody said, I want to go to a psychiatrist, they would say, Gando che? And today, going to a psychiatrist is like anything. I mean, everybody goes to a psychiatrist because I am feeling depressed. You have film stars saying, I am depressed, and they are being glorified. Why? It's all because of, not because of technology, but because technology has made everything abundantly available. We had Maruti and Fiat as the 2 choices, or probably Ambassador. And today, in just one segment, you have 20 cars. And that's where the non-content life is becoming. So at the end of the day, I'm not against technology at all, but I'm saying that technology, there are a lot of fallouts that we have to look at. So technology is more production, more connect, more development, and most importantly, the speed, the movement with which we are moving ahead. That's where, like Parul Ben said, I have grown more gray hair. So that's the speed at which we are going, right? Technology, how it helps. You have a Stephen Hawkins, a person who was diagnosed with ALS. To say it, it's amyotrophic lateral syndrome, somewhere where the muscles stop responding to your neurons. The brain can't give any connection or any message to the muscle. A brilliant mind who talked about black hole, everyone knows of his quantum physics theories. This person would never have done, and the world will always be indebted to him, but had technology not been with him, he would never, ever have shown us what the Big Bang theory is. And I think we should applaud for that kind of technology that a person like him, a paraplegic, could give to the world, and that will remain permanent. Technology is not only about machines, but it's an approach. I think it's an attitude. And believe me, jugaad, that is something which is an Indian word, which is coined in the Indian English dictionary permanently, which talks about simple solutions, using the best of the resources, minimalistic resources, to gain your ultimate goal. It doesn't talk about using chips, using mobiles to gain something. It talks about jugaad, which even a villager does in his own home, and which we all do it. If the wheel is not working, we just tie something and we make it work. And I think in India, technology is supposed to be that, and not just what we call or we opine as technology to be. So being traditional, according to me, is being contextual. I think that's the crux of it. Being contextual automatically is being sustainable. At the end of the day, try and understand that the best of the forms, Zaha's forms, will remain amazingly good, but in which country and in which context? According to me, it's nothing to do about Zaha. According to me, in the dust control India, something goes like this, you're done. Look at the glass buildings and you can make out which are the windows which are opening. Because the moment they even tilt at 15 degrees, you can make out that these 14 windows are the ones which are openable because the dust settles. So anything and everything which is sustainable means it should test the time. Whatever you make, if it tests the time, as many awards as you get for your project, revisit the project after 4 years and then understand whether that was a sustainable project or not. The award should be given after 5 years after which it is completed, not on the first day after it's photographed. Being contextual, out of this,
you have to find out 3 airports which are from India and 3 which are not. I'm not against the form. What I'm trying to say is that this is what is typified architecture. Like Yatin Bhai very nicely put up, you have slides of glass facades and you put all country names. This is exactly that. What context are we talking about? This form is ready to change from day one because it's a period that we are talking about. It's not meant to be. This is my perception, I may be wrong. But it's my 6 minutes, so I will say. The same happens here. No difference. And then something happens here, wherein it's a little bit refreshing, may not be contextual, but at least it is talking about the public who is staying inside. It's trying to give them relief, and technology works of maintaining those kind of trees at that altitude. So, coming to the reality, you have cuss curtains and you have air conditioners. You have an open space in a right Indian kind of climate, and you have a closed condition. Parul Ben's presentation, by far amazing, because you're talking about using the Indian climate for betterment. You're not talking about living with the heat. You're talking about reducing the heat and controlling the humidity by natural means. Having, Yatin Bhai's statement was wonderful, that whether using technology is contemporary or not. I think why to make it contemporary is the first question. Where is it relevant? You have an AC in an extremely good, well-ventilated, well-designed home, only to showcase your standard that I have an AC, then that is a wrong sense of putting an AC in the first place. I think the whole reasoning should be why. In the same way, mathematics. Huge amount of labor goes into that. If you have seen Hidden Figures movie, I don't know how many have seen. There are 3 females who actually made the first NASA trip possible. All 3 were black Americans. Huge calculations made simple by a small calculator. Fantastic technological growth. That is what we should be looking at. That I'm not saying is wrong, but this is definitely right. In the same way, Parul Ben's presentation summed it, so won't go ahead. Labor getting replaced by machinery, good way to look at it. But a randa for a carpenter, getting him a machine is amazing, but having an industry wherein the carpenter himself is replaced is not good. In India, we cannot compare ourselves with developed nations which have very small population wherein robotics is a necessity. I think so. We have fantastic amount of skilled labor with us. If we start replacing them, we are going into the unemployment category which we are now facing, and then all the problems will start. It's better that we equip them with right tools so that they themselves can keep on manufacturing at a higher pace, at a higher volume, but not make some robots which will replace them in place. The same way, as a viewer, viewing carpets gets replaced by a factory making. This example is something that India should or may not really appreciate. Rather, give him the tools to make better carpets, better volumes, rather than replacing him totally with a machinery. Bugatti Veyron. You know what the best part of this car is? It's one of the most expensive cars. Why? Because it is handcrafted. And what are we doing? We pay for something that comes in from a machinery, which is machine done, made on an assembly. Wait till a point of time, the way we are respecting yoga, because yoga was given to us by the Britishers, saying that this is a good means of staying healthy and fit. After that, every one of us went to the parks to do, anulom, vilom, and pranayam. It was there with us for a long period of time, but we respect that kind of thing only when the West tells us to do something. I'm sure if Bugatti Veyron keeps on remaining like this, slowly, our cars will also say that this is hand-stitched. I don't know when that day will come. But according to me, respect what we have and be content. Thank you.
To me, the tradition and the technology, એ બંને એકબીજાના પૂરક છે actually. It is not about only technology or only traditions. And see, if the amalgamation of both the things are there, then we can have a better result. So that's what my view. See, we need to do modernizations, but looking, by keeping the traditions in mind and do the modernizations, that would be the better idea, I think. So, that we should do, and technology નો ઉપયોગ જે કરીએ છીએ આપણે એ આપણી પદ્ધતિ જે છે આપણે જે કામ કરવાની પદ્ધતિ એને બહુ જ સરળ બનાવે છે એકચ્યુઅલી. દેટ ઇઝ વોટ આઈ થિંક. પહેલાંના ટ્રેડિશન વખતે જે ટેકનોલોજી યુઝ થતી હતી, અત્યારે જે ટેકનોલોજી યુઝ થઈ રહી છે, સો એ આપણી પદ્ધતિને સરળ પણ બનાવે, થોડીક વ્યાજબી પણ બનાવે છે, આઈ થિંક. સી, આજના સમયમાં મારે સપોઝ સ્ટોનમાં કામ કરવા હોય, મારે ક્યાંકથી સ્ટોન લાવીને સારા આર્ટિસન્સને લાવીને કામ કરવા હોય, તો ઇટ રિક્વાયર્સ સમ મની ટુ પુટ ઇન, યુ નો. અને ટેકનોલોજીમાં આઈ થિંક we have a chance to cut down the cost. So that is what I feel. And ajna, I think in today's architecture, we should see the tradition as a wisdom, and we should use the technology to have that tradition and to take that tradition further. And along with the technology, I think we should use the local art, local materials. So that is the best way to design things. But it's not about, say, we say no to technology. We say no to technology. So traditions, local arts, local materials no use kariye. So that should be the idea actually. આજની જે ટેકનોલોજી છે એ ડિપેન્ડ્સ કરે છે ટાઈમ ઉપર, બિકોઝ આજથી અમુક સમય પહેલાં જે ટેકનોલોજી જે યુઝ થતી હતી, જે ટ્રેડિશન્સ યુઝ થતું, એ સમયની જરૂરિયાત હતી. આજના સમયની જરૂરિયાત બદલાઈ છે અને ફ્યુચરમાં એ જરૂરિયાત કદાચ બદલાશે હજુ પણ. સો આઈ ફીલ દેટ ધ ટેકનોલોજી ઇવોલ્વ્સ ફ્રોમ ધ ટ્રેડિશન, અને એ આગળના ફ્યુચરને ધ્યાનમાં રાખીને ટેકનોલોજી બનાવવામાં આવી છે, અને ફ્યુચરમાં કદાચ એ ટેકનોલોજી વધશે પણ ખરી આગળ. એટલે આજની ટેકનોલોજી બની શકે કે આવતીકાલની ટ્રેડિશન હોઈ શકે. દેટ ઇઝ વોટ આઈ થિંક. એટલે ગઈકાલની ટ્રેડિશન આજની ગઈકાલનું ટ્રેડિશન આજે એ ટેકનોલોજીમાં કન્વર્ટ થયું છે, અને આજનું ટેકનોલોજી એ આવતીકાલે ટ્રેડિશન હશે, અને ત્યારે નવી ટેકનોલોજી ડેવલપ થશે. સો વી શુડ નોટ બી લિમિટ અવર સેલ્વ્સ કે ટેકનોલોજી યુઝ નહીં કરવું જોઈએ. આપણે ટેકનોલોજી 100% યુઝ કરવું જોઈએ, પણ આપણા ટ્રેડિશનને ધ્યાનમાં રાખીને ટેકનોલોજીનો જો યુઝ કરવામાં આવે તો યુ ગેટ બેટર રિઝલ્ટ. તમે સારું લાઇટ્સનું તમે યુઝ કરો, નેચરલ લાઇટ્સનો યુઝ કરો તમારા સ્પેસીસ ડિઝાઇનમાં, અને સારા મટીરિયલ્સ યુઝ કરો કે જેથી એનર્જીનું કન્ઝમ્પશન ઓછું થાય. સો ધેટ વે વી શુડ ફોલો અવર ડિઝાઇન ફિલોસોફી એન્ડ ઓલ ધીસ. મને એવું લાગે છે કે આધુનિક આપણી જે મોડર્નાઇઝેશન જે ટેકનોલોજી છે ને, ઇટ ગિવ્સ ફ્રીડમ ટુ યુ પીપલ. તમે બંધાઈ ના જાઓ કે હું આ રિજિયનમાં કામ કરું છું એટલે મારે આવું જ કામ કરવું જોઈએ, આવું જ કરવું જોઈએ, એવું બંધાવવું ના જોઈએ. એનો બેસ્ટ એક્ઝામ્પલ છે લૂરનું મ્યુઝિયમ. હવે લૂરનું મ્યુઝિયમ છે એ તમે જુઓ તો ઇટ્સ એન એન્શિયન્ટ બિલ્ડિંગ, પણ જ્યારે મ્યુઝિયમમાં ગેલેરી ડેવલપ કરવાની વાત આવે, આર્ટ ગેલેરી, તો આર્કિટેક્ટ પે હેઝ સજેસ્ટેડ દેટ પિરામિડ શુડ બી બ્રિંગ ઇન. તો પિરામિડ ઇઝ પેરિસની કોઈ ટ્રેડિશનલ પેલી એ નથી, રિજનલ એ નથી, પણ સ્ટીલ હી બ્રિંગ ધ પિરામિડ ઇનસાઇડ, અને એને ગ્લાસનો યુઝ કર્યો. સો દેટ વોઝ એક્સલન્ટ એક્ઝામ્પલ. આઈ મીન આજે એ વસ્તુ બહુ જ આઉટસ્ટેન્ડિંગ સ્ટ્રક્ચર બની ગયું છે. ત્યાં જેટલા પણ ટુરિસ્ટ જે જઈ રહ્યા છે એમના માટે એક ફોકલ પોઈન્ટ છે, અને દેટ ગ્લાસ અલાઉડ મેક્સિમમ લાઇટ ટુ પેનિટ્રેટ ઇનસાઇડ ધ સ્પેસ, વિચ વોઝ વેરી મચ ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ એકચ્યુઅલી. એવું સમજો કે કદાચ ગ્લાસની જગ્યાએ સ્ટોનમાં, આજુબાજુનું બિલ્ડિંગ સ્ટોનમાં છે ને સ્ટોનમાં જે પિરામિડ બનાવી દીધો હોત તો શું થાત. સો ડોન્ટ લિમિટ યોર સેલ્ફ. તમે ટ્રેડિશનને તમે લઈ આવો, ક્યાંક ભલે ગમે ત્યાંની ટ્રેડિશન હોય, પણ એને સ્માર્ટલી તમે યુઝ કરો અને તમારી સ્પેસને એનહાન્સ કરો. દેટ્સ ઓલ. એન્ડ આ કે બહુ મોટું રોકેટ સાયન્સ છે, આ બધા જ કરે છે, અહીંયા બેઠેલા બધા જ આવ કરે છે કે કેવી રીતે કરવું જોઈએ. તો પણ મારો આઈડિયા એવો છે કે આપણે જ્યારે પણ સ્પેસીસ ડિઝાઇન કરતા હોઈએ ત્યારે વી હેવ ટુ થિંક ઓવર કે સ્પેસીસ કયા ડિરેક્શનમાં કરતા હોઈએ. સો that is the real sense of the following the tradition. કારણ કે આપણું ટ્રેડિશનલ આર્કિટેક્ચર એ સનપાથને ફોલો કરીને એ વખતના લોકોએ ડિરાઈવ કરેલું છે ટ્રેડિશન. એટલે આ બધા જ કરીએ છીએ આપણે, પણ એમાં મેં જસ્ટ બતાવ્યું છે કે અમે કેવી રીતે અમારું જે ફોર્મ્સ છે એને અમે ક્રિએટ કરીએ છીએ, એટલે કેવી રીતે એમાં અમે જ્યાં શક્ય હોય ત્યાં કોર્ટયાર્ડ્સને કાવ કરીએ, અને કોર્ટયાર્ડ્સને કાવ કર્યા પછીથી નેચરલ લાઇટ્સને વધારે પેનિટ્રેટ થવા દઈએ કે જેથી યુ એન્ડ ઓફ ધ ટાઈમ તમે લાઇટ્સ ઓછી વાપરો અને એનર્જી કન્ઝમ્પશન્સ વિલ બીકમ ઇટ રિડ્યુસ્ડ ટુ યુઝ. So this is the form we created for one of our project. So you can see the consolidated courtyard there carved out, some courtyards between two spaces and all that. So and this swimming pool which is creating a consolidated courtyard, but still your vision is not been blocked. So this is how we design this. This project is called Tamra Villa, and Tamra is a lotus. So in this project, we use the lotus as a symbol, and જ્યાં પણ અમારે લાગ્યું ત્યાં અમે એ સિમ્બોલ્સ છે તાંબરાનું જે એક મોટિફ છે એ મોટિફને અમે રિક્રિએટ કર્યું છે in other different forms, different materials. Here we took traditionમાંથી આપણે એક પેલે લીધું છે કે the door has been recycled door we have used here, and this jali it is again a recycled stone pieces, and the metal which you see which is also a wastage of the materials. અમે અમારા ફેબ્રિકેટર્સના ત્યાં જે વેસ્ટના જે મટીરિયલ્સ હતા મેટલ્સના એ અમે લઈને અને we use this, and with the help of this screen and the door, we have created an entrance courtyard for this house. Because when my client came, he came with the wisdom that I want a resort kind of living here. So and he said that mane Bali જેવું કંઈક atmosphere આપજો. So that's what we tried here. This is a space which is having inside and outside. We always create overhang verandas and outdoor verandas. એટલા માટે કે આપણા જે ક્લાયન્ટ્સ હોય ને એ મેક્ઝિમમ ટાઈમ આઉટડોર સ્પેન્ડ કરે રાધર દેન ઇનસાઇડ ધ હાઉસ, એન્ડ ધેટ્સ હાઉ વી સે કે ભાઈ એનર્જીનું સેવિંગ થઈ શકે. બિકોઝ મોસ્ટ ઓફ ધ ટાઈમ મારા આ બધા જે ક્લાયન્ટ છે મોસ્ટ ઓફ ધ ટાઈમ દે સ્પેન્ડ ઓવર ધીસ વરંડાઝ ઓનલી ડ્યુરિંગ ધ ડે. સો એન્ડ the boundaries, you would not feel any boundaries between the outside and inside. So you can enjoy the landscape from the inside. So these are some view. I mean, this is another project. I mean, where we have used mud plaster in the entrance wall. અને આમાં પણ અમે recycled ડોરનો યુઝ કરેલો છે. આ એક એન્ટર થતા એક કોર્ટયાર્ડ છે which is deriving you to the space. અહીંયા આવતા you can feel કે આખું જે ફાર્મ છે that is કલરવ is it's a bird chirping. So you can, when you enter into the premise, you will come to know કે આ premise-માં બર્ડ્સને લગતું કંઈક સેન્ચુરી બની રહ્યું છે. These are the courtyards we normally prefer to have in our project. And this is the overall ambience we created. It was very barren land when we took up this project, and this is the atmosphere we created. This is mainly for we created for the birds. I mean, we wanted birds to visit this place, and the party, I mean, the client is the bird lover. So we created water bodies. It is again 3-level water bodies which is recycled. I mean, the water, and the below part is the lily pond where you don't require any maintenance. I think Hiren knows it very well because Hiren uses lily pond so much. I mean, and these are the examples. I mean, the technology where we use. I mean, to cut down the sun rays and all that, we used fins sometimes we can use the kinetic fins also to cut the suns. This kind of quality of light you get inside the space where you don't require to put on the light during the daytime. So that is what we try to create. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everybody. Respected senior architects. I really am scared now कि मैं बोलूं. Hiren bhai, Vipul bhai, Rahul, you were rocking. तमने तो मैं कहूँ पारुल बहन. And the youngsters was also great. When Yatin sir na presentation pachi to, what to say? But thank you Sumisha, Vibhor and ITP for having us here, for inviting us. And the project that we are going to show or share with you is a home for a spiritual guru, a leader for heartfulness, which is at Kana Shanti Vanam, Hyderabad. It is a 2,000-acre land which is being developed as a spiritual center. It has the world's largest meditation hall. And Snehal will give you a small brief of the client that we received, and then we have a small film to show you.
So when we started designing for the spiritual leader, of course, there was a lot of feedback given by him. And we designed the house, we made the plan, and we made the renders by using the technology. But when we started making it, and when we went to the site and we started execution and excavation, we realized a lot of rocks are coming out of the site, and lot of trees were there. So eventually, I'm not taking much more time, it's many things to explain, but we literally surrender to the nature, because even if a beautiful render were not, I think, enough to justify the nature we had. So we absolutely surrendered to the nature, and we just guided. I think it is purely a nature-driven project which we are going to see. Forget about the elevation and facades and everything. It is a nature-driven project, and it is really very close to my heart. Please look at this. That is what I can see.
You can be yourself. You can be in harmony within yourself, with others in the family. Guests, friends, family members are welcome without any conditions. Where our ancient tradition of Atithi Deva Bhava holds really true. It's not a physical place, it's a kind of attitude. Wherever you go and you are able to create that environment, wherever you are, that becomes your home. There will be inconveniences, a lot of adjustments. Unless love dominates in your heart, how will you adjust? We have a symbiotic relationship with trees. Not only they provide such physical thing, they exchange their vibrations with us. All this nature is part of us. Bring in more and more into your life and see how life changes. We will go, but they will be there. They will share the vibrations that I shared with them. They will also be able to share my vibrations to my grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and so on. So they are actually depositories of love. And that's why, even though many trees were coming in the way here, forget removing or moving the trees, we didn't even chop a branch. We adjusted the design, and you know Badri and Snehal Bhai. See the rocks around that you see here, they were spread all over here, as they are only. When there was nothing absolutely, there were these rocks and the trees here. Now, we didn't want to disturb this formation of rocks that was here. Nature created it, so I didn't want to interfere. In fact, these rocks in the Deccan Plateau, according to my Guruji, were the first rocks to emerge from the oceans. So they carry the original vibrations also of the creation. And when you do love nature, nature rewards you with manifold returns. This land that we witness is a completely barren land. This place is so dry that you don't even get 500 mm of water, which is even less than Rajasthan. Then we decided to plant lakhs and lakhs of trees around here. So we use a lot of charcoal. Charcoal retains nutrition, see. We use this property of charcoal because charcoal is used in every little thing. Charcoal is used in purifying water. If we can charge charcoal with fertilizer, they can retain fertilizer and provide it to the plants. We would buy water from surrounding villages and water them. And we would tell all our satsangis, each one plant one and water one each time you come. We are able to see nature's reward. Today, if you measure the temperature of this ashram and you measure the temperature of any place just 2 kilometers away from it, usually minimum 4 to 5 degree difference. And now we have minimum, I would say, 70 various species of birds. A lot of experimentation also has gone into it, how we can preserve water, how we can discharge water into the soil. And we did find that the quality, the yield doubles up or triples up. These trees, they retain spiritual charge. That's why we encourage people, plant more and more trees wherever you are. All these external things that we are aspiring, beautiful home, beautiful relationship, ever rewarding businesses, they have their roots in your heart. You can create your destiny. House is not the destiny. Relationship is also not a destiny. It is how you steer your heart. And only way to listen to your heart very clearly is when you close your eyes and be with your heart. Simple thing to understand that whenever we have gone wrong in making decisions, ask your heart, what was your state at that time? And whenever you have gone really right, heart will say, I was there with you. We are trying to nurture here that, whosoever comes here and do that tapasya should minimum find the benefit of getting liberation. Liberation means something that you should be able to experience here and now, in this life itself. So with that spirit and with such a dream, we like to nurture this ashram, where there is a lot of harmony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When you have such a spiritual guru as your client,
yeah,
how could you convince about your design with exposed concrete and things like number one question?
Yeah.
And number two was why there was a blue color? Why you use the blue color in all bricks and everything?
No, I think there was some.
So they were not blue color. No. Because I almost felt like I was looking Avatar movie, and it was so beautiful. I mean, you can go back and paint blue.
No.
I think there was a problem. Okay, the color is not blue.
So it's a red brick.
It's a red brick, yes.
Okay, we could visualize that. That was mesmerizing because it was completely blue. And I thought of that fashion designers of Morocco, that blue, and I said, wow.
These were red bricks, and they were made. There's a workshop there where the bricks are made by the laborers who stay there, and that's how it was done.
So how could you convince? Any good memories of having interaction with such kind of clients, if you can say something?
I mean, whenever we face Daji, we always we are speechless, and the comments which he gives me, you know,
I think he just, when he gave the brief to design the house, we haven't shot his bedroom, if you would have realized, because he has 2 sons who are married and who have children. So he strongly believes in getting married and having children and trying to live together. And his brief was that he was based in US and then he shifted. So he's born and brought up in India and then shifted to US for many, many years. He has a huge company there, a chain of drugstores, and he himself is a pharmacist. And his sons are also based in US. But he said, I would like to have a house where my sons want to come back and live here with me, at least for some time. તો મને તમે એવું ઘર આપો કે જેમાં એ લોકો આવીને, so at present when we shot the house, the sons are here. So since 6 months with their grandchildren, so એમની પેલી granddaughter હતી. So he has 3 grandchildren and they're all living here. So fundamentally I believe whether it is technology, yes or no, tradition is we are all social animals, and especially Indians, like to live together. We like to socialize, and as somebody mentioned, that even during the pandemic, I think Yatin sir was mentioning, we did want to go out and meet. So his basic brief was, એવું ઘર આપો કે જેમાં રહેવાનું ગમે, and it is nature driven definitely because they have hearty culture. If you follow heartfulness, you'll see they have another branch called hearty culture where they have developed hundreds and thousands of species of dying plants.
He simply told me that follow the nature. Nature will guide you. That is the only line he gave me. And of course, you know, when we were constructing the house, literally the stone was telling me, no, Snail, I want to be here. Don't remove me. The trees were telling, no, we don't want to move here. So we, even as he said,
Wall,
we didn't even chop a
living room ni wall is, actually it was straight
so
when we planned.
wall, yes. We
but
tilted
it's angular.
So we just,
but I think Yatin
it was
sir,
gratitude to Mother Earth, that's all. And we surrender against the technology.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But he does have AC.
All right, very good evening. I think we had a fantastic round of points of views demonstrated through their works, and their presentations were absolutely demonstrative of their thoughts. They were very passionate, full of conviction, and we also had a very experiential and emotional journey in the serene space making. So thank you all for showing and sharing those ideas with your work. Since there was a work, we will definitely take questions and debate, but just to allow your participation, would there be somebody who would want a pressing question to be asked or want to share a view here in the audience? I guess we have blue lights at the back, so it keeps us awake. Am I right? Yeah, your presentation was all coming blue and unbelievable blue. So my one question was that Mr. Havel told us that, you know, blue is one that keeps you awake, and meditation was more about. Any thoughts coming from there? Any questions you would want it to be answered by any of the panelists? Just to play democratic for a while.
Yeah, my name is Harsh Gupta. I am basically a founder of HGCG Architects. I graduated from IIT Kharagpur in 2010, and then after 3 years of job at various places in India, I started my own firm in Ahmedabad. Coming to the point, the debate, basically the tradition versus technology. The topic itself has a very wide range in a way that you can talk about the tradition, how the process of the creative design is being done, to the construction, how we are currently using the technology to make the whole houses and different type of buildings. There is another aspect which I was actually grateful to all the people, the senior architects, which all those people actually, all the senior architects actually pinpointed on the requirement of using the technology appropriately to make or to build the space, keeping the climatology as well as the sustainability of Earth in mind. The great example of the last presentation, I mean, how you can, just actually keep all the trees there and you can just build the whole home around it and, taking guidance from that particular place. To the contrast, the new architects and the architects of my generation, we actually design very modern buildings, airports, you can't actually contextualize them to give which place this basically belong to. My point is, there is always a question of, performance, or, the parameter which you basically uh, put more criteria, more, you are pulled towards more to, like, there is, if you want to build a castle, you always, the money is no bound, right? So, and compared to that, if you want to build a house, you have very limited budget. So, in that way, technology somewhere helps to, enhance the performance within the budget setup of it, but it might be not sustainable for the, and to the, but there are examples, the people have actually done very great works using the technology as well as the wisdom of the traditional architecture to get the more efficient and sustainable solution. So it is all about how you put the solution, and I am basically, in the end, I would like to conclude that idea of the debate, it should be, it shouldn't be a debate, it should be technology plus design, and the more, as a aware architect or as an architect, you should always use the technology to get the better solution in an appropriate with an appropriate use of technology. Thank you.
Thank you. I think gentlemen had some observation. I'll go to the last and find some young one, just to make sure that we are interacting. And we will pose you a question. So Manaswi, I'm sorry, do you want to ask something to this lovely panel? The young lady.
I don't have anything particular.
But don't make an observation. Ask a question.
Okay, so I'm Manaswini, and I don't really have a question, but I was definitely enticed about whatever things or whatever observations all these senior architects had to make, and they were really lovely. I mean, they were inspiring to me, and as a young architect, I feel that, okay, it's technology plus tradition together, and not just technology or just tradition, because as an budding architect, I feel that tradition is something that needs to be in us, and if we are accepting as an Indian, then if the Indian culture should show, but with respect to technology and modernism, because that is really important.
Can we give a huge round of applause for the young lady? She's a very budding student. Any youngsters here? I'm just coming to the youngsters because, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
I'm Paresh Upadhyay, and running and designing firm with having my entire next generation into the architectural field. I am an engineer planner actually, and I have worked closely with Doshi sir and Yatin bhai. I would just put one sentence. Doshi is the tradition, and these youngsters are the technology. And we all people are in between the link. And Yatin bhai is among them. Thank you for having this a very, very fruitful debate event. Thank you.
So well said. I think the debate has to go. The marriage is to exist between technology and tradition. But I think the fine semblance, I would leave. Is there anybody in the room who wants to ask a question? Before, yes, I'll come to you, sir.
I'm PVK Rameshwar, I'm an architect, urban designer. I think Yatin, in his attempt to curate, has played very smart, has used the word tradition versus technology, almost implicitly meaning technology is synonymous with modernity, without stating at the same time gives you the freedom to saying that please interpret the way you want. And as a result, the entire sort of presentations and debates swayed continuously between whether technology is what one is referring to as modernity, or technology is referred to as a technique of getting things done. So in which case it is really not versus, and I think the way Parul Ben interpreted made a lot of sense, because technology is inherently a part of tradition. So even if I'm using so-called now low technology, was a technique by which I got things done, whether it was schooling or building or protecting myself from climatic disasters or whatever. So that confusion is, maybe you say that was deliberate, and that's why I said he was a clever guy to give the possibilities of the way people have interpreted, was one. Second, I think the people have interpreted technology as being value-free, which I think the way they were talking is value-free, but the work presented that it is loaded with value. And I think that's where the other contradiction inherently came up in pretty much both the kind of presentation, both the younger people and the more senior people. And the last, I couldn't resist responding to Mr. Dalvi's blame on technology. And I think that's where is one example where he has used technology as, of course, is full of value loaded. So the problem is the market economy or the consumerist economy and not necessarily the technology. And I think one should not therefore confuse between value-free, technology doesn't have value unless the way if you want to use the nuclear energy to make an atom bomb, is a value that you added to a technology, and there's nothing wrong with the technology. I think these confusions are very, very much strongly underlying pretty much all the presentations. But I think the work was of fantastic variety, and I think they used all the kind of interpretations. I'll stop at that, and I thank you for all the kind of exposure I've got.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Very well said. Last one, sir, from the hall. Yes.
Hi, I actually have a question for not the panelists, but I want to raise it to the institutes and the universities from the education, from the curriculum background. What I feel is that we have been using a lot of, it's not that we are trying to digress completely from the technology, or we are saying goodbye to technology and going all tradition, but also there is a lack of communication between us, artisans. Also, there is no directory to how we sort of reach out to the authentic craftsmen and the skilled labor. And I am myself very fascinated by lime plaster, but we are still not there, or a person like me also who's already there in the industry, but not able to really reach out to the authenticity of the skill that we are looking for. So I think there has to be a platform where someone creates a platform where there is an exchange of skilled labor with the architects as well as the students, and so we will be very efficiently progressing and passing on the the skills that we are talking about, and try and make spaces very sustainable and.
All right.
I think,
Thank you. Good to hear that, because otherwise people say that we should teach more and more Lumion and whatever in the school.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for those points of views. And one clarification, I mean, what Ramesh was saying, that it's not like just, kind of beating something and giving laurel to something. I also want to clarify, because some of these initial queries and some people saying them and us, frankly, it is not about age. We were trying to get the viewpoints of a generation which may have been more exposed to, as well as more probably convenient or conversant with that. So it is not a generational thing. That's a bias that is creeping on, which is something even they can reflect on. But many buildings that were shown here as good, bad, ugly have been done by a generation with no hair or gray hair. And there have been many examples we saw, and they are not old to be bracketed in this circuit, the ones here, okay, the last project that you saw. So it's not an age thing, it's not a generation thing, it's an attitude thing, which we were talking about, that with what attitude you use the tools available to you. For example, I think we all were excellent technician when it was a electrical bulb or some kind of form of electricity, because logically you could put two things together. And right now, smartphone is actually the dumb phone in a sense that it's nothing to do with logic, it's more to do with memory. कि ये function से ये होगा. Okay? So what I'm trying to say is that it's a relativity of the sort. So it's not that this generation is only about kind of technology and this generation has not been, or anything against that. I think technology, culture, climate, and construction. These are the three things put together becomes a holistic architecture, of which arguably climate is constant. Also, we talk about climate change. Arguably, culture is relatively slow to change, but technology changes fast. So keeping up to that, but as doctor, we have to diagnose that what is the right way and what aspect. Thanks, Rahul Bhai. He brought out very subtle nuances of when technology is a tool of value versus when that is a fad or a fashion. For example, the liberty that we have taken. So it's no accusation to people relying on technology, but in a hotel, what on earth gave us a liberty to have doubly loaded corridor with a blindingly kind of a dark corridors? Could we have passed an exam in our earlier time if we said that toilet doesn't ventilate on its own? You have to have a fan, exhaust fan, or a corridor would need, even in a daytime, May afternoon, a light. So the point is that what he showed about the air conditioning, nothing wrong with air conditioning, not even in sustainability term. But first to invite all sun and radiation and make it 52 inside, and then say I'm using 5-star new technology, whatever, to further cool it down. So first thing first is what was the gist of things, and technology therefore, enhancing the value which was being talked about. Before I come to the questions on the specific aspects, we have short time. There was one very prolific and long, question or a point of view asked here, but I'll just take a last line and maybe some of you can take up to answer that, It says, and maybe Parulven, because I believe this, it says, how far inspiration and imitation drives the professional practice. And the earlier references are that, if I understood right, that is, that if you are taking something from the past and applying it, how far are we imitating, how far is it inspiration, and how far is it innovation of a sort? So, would you want to take up?
This is the question that we always come across. And we always say that, what about imitation from West? Glass is imitation from West. Technology, a lot of technology that you have today is imitation from West. All we are doing is contextual architecture. We are not saying that, yes, look at me, I am the architect of this place. And this is my statement, and I'm not doing a style statement. I think you cannot be called creative if you have a style of your own. You have to blend with what is the context. If you have that ability to blend with the context, then you're being creative. But when you have a style and a stamp, you're limiting yourself.
Yep.
You're limiting yourself to that much language. And I would also like to answer him that using traditional materials is cheaper. In Rajasthan, the buildings that we were doing were 20% cheaper at one point in time than using modern materials and modern technologies. And who says that can your concrete building survive for more than 100 years? So what technology is that? What science is that? And lime can survive for thousands of years. It becomes rock. Have we ever tried to understand that? I think it's time that we question why all this has happened. Why are we looking only at the West as something that has advanced technology? What we had is far advanced technology where science is now trying to reach. In every region, every climate, the concoction that happens with the lime is different. because our craftsmen knew what to add, what is the locally available. Like you may add methi, gourd and gugar in certain areas. In certain areas, billies are there, billi patra na billi, fruit. They add that. In certain areas, they add adad ni dal. Even with lime institutes in UK, I don't think they have been able to analyze it. Why? Amuk jagya lime ma chash nakhe. You know, you have to, and that is technology. Today the science is, let me tell you, realizing that apni age, biological age ek che, and apni age ek che. Actual physical age. It's the lifestyle and the kind of food that we eat, and that determines the biological age. Because you become much older than your actual age, and that's when you die. And આજે યોગીઓને આપણે જોઈએ છીએ, એ લોકો, why do they look so young? 70 વર્ષના ને 80 વર્ષના જે હશે, they will look like 50-year-old. That's what the science has discovered, that it's yoga, meditation and vegetarian food. And that's what we have been, you know, our religions have been talking about. So science has not reached where they had reached, and I believe that even technology has not reached. Right now, we are just playing with technology like tools, like, you know, games that children play with, without even understanding its impact, what it's doing to the environment, what's going to happen to your children. We are using up all the resources. Most of the technology tools that we have are not biodegradable. So what are you going to do? Cement, can you use it again? No. It's not biodegradable. Steel you can use. Glass, it's not biodegradable. The way the glass is made now. So what are you leaving for your children and grandchildren? A world that they're going to hate you for? This is something that one should think. I was listening to a German lady, and she said that she was part of the children born after the World War. So that generation, they said, we were asking our parents, and we were hating them for not standing up to Hitler and allowing their friends and closest friends Jews to die.
Thank you.
Can I, sir?
Please.
As Ma'am said about the lime, you know, one thing which I learned doing this project is lime has that unique characteristics. Lime absorbs CO2 from the atmosphere. So once the CO2 is lesser, automatically the atmosphere will go down. I mean, the temperature of the atmosphere will go down. I think that is a great characteristic of lime.
Yeah, meaning cement has a life which keeps dying after 40, 50, 70 years, while this becomes rock, calcium carbonate, and it's a rock, so it actually just like a stone. So that's just, it's just that speed, what he mentions with technology, that we have changed from lime to concrete because setting time is different. So we have killed something which was appropriate to us in the name of speed, etc. And speed is very relative. Sorry, I might be minority, nor do I want to take away from their platform. But I have always wondered, कि ये Kuala Lumpur का वो towers इतने time में बना. Now, how many decades have passed after that, and who cares if it was 3 weeks or 3 months faster than what it should have been? और वो करने के लिए how many people had heart attack, blood pressure, how many people were fired, and what kind of artificial means by which that concrete was set in certain time? और अभी that race is over, इससे fast और कोई building बन गया. It's like tallest, you know, when they say you are in a rat race, even if you win, you are a rat. वे वाली बात है. So sometimes speed, sometimes this comfort, and some takeaway of her projects and the lessons are that even we talk about precision, we talk about time. You should see the masonry work they get done. It's more precise than what your instruments can figure out or so. So some of these notions about technology is about perfection. It's more on the attitude. With the best technology, we do lousy job because our attitude is not towards perfection, etc. While in the tradition, when you have challenged, because otherwise it might fail, you give more attention to. Like I said, that we have liberty. ये नहीं चला तो कोई AC और डाल देंगे. But if you don't have AC, you have to make it comfortable. So as you were saying, the issue of plenty, etc. Okay, let me go to, can I just change a little, that just between you two, you have been saying that craftsmen are a teacher and I learn from them, and Hirenbhai sent craftsmen to Italy to acquire something, you know. You talked about hinges, and I hear sometimes in other places that our holy pivot in a wooden this thing was the best hinge that we have, which works for ages. So is it that we want something prefixed in our mind and then we want our craftsmen to adopt that? Or so is it with an idea that certain things are not adequate and we want to bring in from somewhere? I mean, it was amazing that you said the carpenter there, but was it for a sort of a, what do you call, an impression that we are not adequate and therefore we need it from somewhere?
No, what I felt that the craftsmen or the, let's say, somebody say partners with your vendors and work, I mean, especially the karigars. So I realized that they have so much of drive, and as educated people, we just need to support them. And if we take them, if we give them exposure, I think they can bring their ability to the next level. So that was an idea, and it really clicked. So next mobile this Salone, I have decided my Ajay, who is a color wala, my Dinesh, who is a POP guy, and my the boy, he's a flooring guy. So I'm going to take them to the Milan fair next year, because then they will absolutely have another level of their ability, which I see in my Suresh carpenter. So it's our part of duty to support our craftsmen, educate them whatever way. I mean, this is my way of it. Parul Ben's way of could be different. We all are different. So this is, I perceive and I believe. So
no,
that's what I
actually, when
yeah.
you said Krishna Ben's comment, I thought there were otlas and verandas in your design. There were courtyards also. But you had chosen to use present-day technology in terms of, instead of jali or any such, a glass, but you might have got a technology-driven glass to give you the view and be part of nature. You wanted to add something? Yeah, I want some.
Yeah. See, you're sending people abroad to learn this. The paint that they will probably use will be emitting chemicals and whatever, which is going to make the buildings, sick building syndrome that comes in with these chemicals. And here we have the technology of frescoes, where even in the sun, when they are exposed for 100 or 200 years, the colors don't fade. Why don't we use that?
You sent for a specific element that one was performing, had certain style or whatever, look or advantage. And that one, if we can, it's like a exchange of knowledge, in other words, that you bring something from other place also, so that tradition goes further.
Agreed. It was always done that way. So also I would suggest next time send them to Rajasthan, send them to Shekhawati region where they excel in frescoes, where those colors don't fade. And also the ironmongery that they do themselves. And that last, like you look at the large hinges of all our doors of forts, they work even today after hundreds of years. It's handmade. I would also say Havel should pride themselves in using local craftsmen and creating from them, generate work for them. Because if we don't generate work for these craftspeople, that knowledge will be gone. Today, what one sees in the cities with the craftspeople is they are all used to fast work. They've lost their skills. They don't care for quality. All they want is in finishing mein sab ho jayega.
You didn't have that ambition because there was no exposure. I remember in architecture when we wanted to refer to books, to get to the book and to get that book was first the mission. To go to the library, check nathi book, kale aojo, param divas aojo. To get that book was a mission. After that started the study. That point of time in architecture, architects were ruling the world because architect was supposed to know the best of the things, like what she said, or what the younger generation said. Client comes in flushed with ideas. You are the selector of unlearning them. In the same manner, what I meant was, regarding the ambition coming back, is that because there was less of awareness, the ambition was not there, because the whole idea was money, government, my job lagi gayi, my life is set. That salary, I will come back home at 5:30, enjoy my time with my kids. There was no thought process that with additional money, I will buy that, because there was no option for that. Your entire ambition was Bajaj Chetak levu ke Bajaj Super levu. You didn't have a further thing till the Vespa came in. So my saying was, the ambition is, if you give them money, then I will do something more. But if I don't know what to do with additional money, why would I crave for that? Which now in present condition, you have n number of ideas to do something. If I want to buy a car of 15 lakhs, I have 20 models, but I will crave for the additional 5 to get in the 20 lakh category. Because we have options, so the entire thought process is having a plenty means having more options.
Do you think it has also to do with the kind of hype with which that ambition is colored, you know? For example, right now, in possession, you know, like by the time you buy whatever 12 model, it's already obsolete because there's some other 14 in the market by the time you afford 12, you know. So is it that kind of a hype created about possession of machines,
I think
technology, and the kind of material thing is more status?
No, I think it is more about the rat race we all are in, every one of us. The kids have a peer pressure which we never had. The kids are not fighting for what they want. It is the fight between the parents which they are focusing on. My kid goes to Australia and his kid goes to USA. My kid goes to MS University. No. Then I am defamed. Just to live up to my friend's standards, I am forcing my kid to do something which he is not focused on. So it is a problem of the rat race we all are in. It's nothing to do about...
That's like the hype that has made...
So if I'm using a Nokia of 1100 rupees, I am fine with it. But my wife won't be, because that is pulling down my status in front of my friends who has an iPhone 13. In the same context, sorry if I'm taking long, but in the same context, it's about, for example, say, speed. The speed is something that is so fast that good creations are not ones which take time. Good creations are ones which are made overnight. They say, "Kaam bahut saras karyu, 6 mahina ma puru thai gyu."
That's what,
They are not saying it took 1 year, but it's fantastic design. Who is telling? I don't remember the last time. I don't remember the last time someone said that even if it took 5 years, it's wonderful. They never say that. They always say it was fantastic, done in 3 months. And that is the biggest problem, and that is where the creativity, the idea of creativity has suddenly changed from something nice and working to something speedily available. Point 2, which ma'am is saying, our perception is the thing should live for 100 years. The present context is it should change. We are still rudimental in saying that this has to live for 100 years. The present generation says, even our clients tell us, interiors 4 વર્ષ માં તો બદલી કાઢવાનું છે, બહુ લાંબુ નથી કરવું. That same thing is the thought process for even buildings. We are talking about 100 years, but who wants the building for 100 years? They want a flat plateau wherein the new city may get developed. So I think it is this modern age perception which we should be looking at. Sorry, I mean...
No, that was a well-taken point. Vipul bhai, you mentioned something that tradition simplifies and is reasonable.
It's not tradition, it is technology which makes the design process very faster. I mean, એક એક્ઝામ્પલ છે કે પહેલાં લોકો જે ડિઝાઇન કરતા હતા અને પછી એને એક્સપિરિયન્સ કરીને they came to know કે આમાં આટલા લૂપ હોલ્સ છે. અત્યારે હવે સિમ્યુલેશન ટેકનોલોજી ઇઝ અવેલેબલ, સિમ્યુલેશન સોફ્ટવેર ઇઝ અવેલેબલ. ત્યાં તમે તમારી ડિઝાઇનને પહેલા દિવસથી યુ કેન અન્ડરસ્ટેન્ડ કે આ તમારું જે સ્પેસીસ છે કેટલી એફિશિયન્ટ એનર્જી એફિશિયન્ટ છે. અને એમાં તમે by putting some walls or by putting some small windows or small openings, you can understand. I mean, you come to know that this is going to be more energy efficient. So that's how I...
Nothing to deny, nor am I here to rebuttal, but taking 2 points out of these discussion, speed. એટલે પેરામીટર આપણે સ્પીડનો મૂકીએ માટે પેલું એફિશિયન્ટ થઈ ગયું, પણ ધારો કે પેલી હેન્ડલૂમ પર સાડી વણતી હતી અને એને પત્ની સાથે ઝઘડો થયો તો 2 દોરા આમ આવી ગયા અને એટલે જે સ્પોન્ટેનિટી હતી, જે ટાઈમ સાથે, મૂડ સાથે, કરનાર સાથે જોડાયેલી હતી, એ તમે કાઢી નાખી. એટલે જે વાત છે કે દરેક સાડી સાઉથની તમને એક સરખી મળશે જ નહીં, બે ભલે દેરાણી જેઠાણી માટે લેવી હોય તો.
એની સાથે એટલી કોસ્ટલી પણ હોય ને સાહેબ, કોસ્ટલી પણ હોય ને એ વસ્તુ.
મેં તો 300 રૂપિયામાં સુતરાઉ સાડી ખરીદી છે. એટલે કોસ્ટલી કેમ થઈ? કારણ કે આપણે હેન્ડલૂમને મારી નાખીને એક મશીનમાંથી એ ટાઈમે થઈ 100 જણા 3 સાડીઓ રોજ બનાવે વર્સિસ એક મિલ 300 સાડી બનાવે. વિચ વન ઇઝ બેટર? એટલે દેટ્સ ધ ઇક્વેશન વી આર ગોઈંગ બેક ટુ, કે what do we mean by speed, what do we mean by automation, and what is that multiple about? આપણે હેન્ડક્રાફ્ટેડ વસ્તુમાં વિવિધતા હતી, અત્યારે એક સરખું બને છે અને બેનાલ બને છે. વાય કાન્ટ વી હેવ અ પ્રોગ્રામ કે એવરી તવેથો વુડ બી અ ડિફરન્ટ શેપ? વી હેડ એવરી betel nut cutter with a different shape even though it was handcrafted. એટલે point is કે coming back to the parameter with which we judge, but otherwise technology has its own shades. And depending on the context, like a doctor, you would say, this is an appropriate technology. There is nothing like right, wrong, good, bad. It's what is appropriate and not appropriate, and technology is a tool. Okay? Well, as they bracket you into the oldies, but I'm sure you can clarify some points that it is not...
I'm okay. That doesn't matter. But if you're talking about traditional versus technology, obviously what I've understood from everybody is even the youngies were talking about
the same
balance.
Yeah.
So I think the crux is we are talking of constant balance. But for me, the perception is tradition, but it has to be in today's context. And with due respect to tradition, it has to amalgamate with today's technology. Otherwise, we are going to fail, because finally, as Rahul said, who is looking for a 100-year-old building? What I see in the young generation, all the kids who come to office as trainees, or my daughter, or the children that I see around, or because I teach, because I'm passionate about teaching, what I see in the children is, as you said, Jito market ma phone aave nathi eની પહેલા, it has become obsolete. So they are not looking for long-term relationships also. So what about houses, or what about cars? None of them are looking for long-term things, because they are saying, whom am I going to buy this 4 BHK house for? My kids are not going to stay with me. That is their thinking, which is very different from what we saw Daji.
If I can just... yeah, no, but forget philosophy, whatever. A lot of these responses, it's not that today we are talking about it. I mean, I wore 44 inches flare as bell bottom when I was a student of architecture. Now, after so many years, they say this is a fashion, this is modern, this is today, this is what we should use now. So what I'm saying is that a lot of these responses are temporal. Like you said, the award has to be for lifetime of a building and not of a creator, or not of a annual listing. So the point is that what sustains for long is right or is considerable. Just because immediate responses, like right now, to say that, oh, I don't use cell phone is more fashionable. Because now every Tom, Dick and Harry has a cell phone. Earlier it was a proud symbol. When first fridge came in, a refrigerator, it was in a drawing room with a lock. Fridge came with a lock, Godrej still. That's next, you put it in a dining room. Then you put it in a kitchen, and now it goes in a store. Okay? So what I'm saying is that something that is just immediate, how far to take it as a constant to sustain. So that's where again the fallacies are, that today everything is like this. Every time there was a change from one to the other, Crockel to rapidograph to kind of early versions of various drafting tools, and so on and so forth. But fundamentals is what sustained everything. I know when I started, people used to say, ke pela loko to computer ma design kare che. Do you do thing in computer? Okay? And even today I don't do AutoCAD. So what I'm trying to say is that some of these are changing phases. Even young people, they say now that when son begins to talk like a father, he has already become a father. So when he's a teenager, he's going to revolt. But when he, comes to that, but that time the cycle has changed. So anyways,
Sir, another thing that you had said, I remember to Parul ma'am, about inspiration and copying. So I think if we come back to that question and adding to what you were saying just now, using traditional methods or using craft for the sake of using it as a facade to getting an award or showing that I have used craft and I'm using local art and local craftsmen and being sustainable, versus actually what Parul ma'am showed, that this is how we are doing and this is how these people sitting there, even if I go in 3 months, have achieved what I have told, which doesn't happen where I'm sitting every single day.
So again,
is the reality.
Final takeaway, there was a point mentioned in his presentation that traditional came from people, by people, for people. So it was contextual. So if the context is the same, that continues, and it's not a dead tradition and is still valid. Poor houses are still valid without an air conditioner. It's close to the lifestyle. So Hindus and Muslims don't have separate typology because it's flexible to adapt. And yet you could personalize yourself with kit of parts, which would be unique to you and yet be similar to the others without, like she said, that if I'm in a chorus, I don't have to play cello louder because my girlfriend is watching. It has to blend. And I think that's the art we have forgotten. And in the hype, in the name of whatever created hype, we think that high tech is a symbol of modernity, and that has fashion rather than as tool of convenience. If we take it, that's equally wrong. And something out of the context, whether it's of yesterday. So it's not a time, it's an attitude. And I think if we can just, therefore, agree on some such statements and take a break here after the food for thought. Thought of food is not out of place. Thank you so much, everyone.
Full discussions, or I must say debate in the true sense that I've experienced myself, and I am overjoyed to have each one of you and the conversations that we've had tonight. Can we all please give a long round of applause for all our panelists who've been such a great support. I'd like to now invite Mr. Partha Karmakar, Business Head, Professional Lighting, Havells India, and Bibhor Srivastav, Managing Director, ITP India, to please present the mementos. Mr. Vipul Patel. Architect Hiren Patel.